your home for Kings talk and so much more.
Live and local.
Allen Stiles on Sacktown Sports.
Yes. On a Thursday, Allen Stiles, Sacktown Sports, taking you up to 2 p.m. And it's not just any Thursday. It is time for the small market finals. This is what everybody has been afraid of. Oh, no, we need New York. We need LA. Or we need a huge star that transcends it. We need Steph. We need LeBron. No, we don't. At some point in time, we were going to have to move on. And what a better way to move on than with two of the most electric players in the game. The Pacers, the gritty underdogs from blue-collar Indiana. OKC, the pride of Oklahoma City. Every move. I was watching, and it was a four-letter network. Don't get me wrong. I was watching the Sam Presti story. That brother has got a gift. How do you draft 3 MVPs, then trade for a player who eventually becomes an MVP? Sam Presti, from his background at Cal Berkeley up to now, one thing has remained true. Sam Presti does not like old guys. Sam Presti will get rid of old stars like a bad habit. And he's hit time and time again. And he is on the doorstep now of getting that championship for Oklahoma City. So just kudos to him, straight up. What the Pacers have done, a little bit of a different type of road. But in both situations, both players traded for, not drafted. We spent all this time, oh my gosh, look at the Mavericks. They got the first overall pick, and it matters, don't get me wrong, these top picks. But there's a bunch of top picks, top 2 picks, top 3 picks, top 4 picks sitting at home or in Cancun or in Cabo. That's what they're doing right now. So kudos to both those guys doing it from a small market. Yes, they've had a couple good breaks along the way, but that's all part of it. That is all part of it. So I'm excited to watch this series. I do think OKC will take care of business. But if the Pacers can come out before OKC kind of gets their footing, get game 1, this whole thing will be turned on its head. So I'm excited for it. We're going to hear from Adam Silver and some of the defense that he has for the quote-unquote small market finals and comparing it to the NFL and other teams. So we're going to get to that. What in the world is going on in New York? There are reports about, you had Stephen A. saying they should hire Jalen Brunson's daddy. Then a report came out that the Knicks players might not even like Jalen Brunson's daddy. A lot of drama going on in New York, and one man's name reemerges. And you ever want to flex on your ex, right? It didn't work out. And you know, if you run into them, going back to you run into them at the state fair, whatever it is, you don't want to be caught lacking, right? And here's the reality. I'm gonna say it. And how the kids say it, I know Kyle Genzier. If I get caught and my ex is walking around, I need somebody better than my ex. I do. Because I want her to know what she missed out on. I can't be walking around with somebody, she's, oh my goodness, Allen. Okay, man. You okay, brother? I need someone that's going to make her jealous. And Mike Brown could flex. Mike Brown, I don't know what the hell that was. Is that Stephen A?
Oh, you weren't here for that. That's right. Okay, so during the Beam Team season, Mike Brown was doing a press conference one time, and someone...
Oh, yes, I recall it now. I did not see that coming.
Sure.
Thank you.
Someone yelled behind him, and so he...
Thank you, yes. Mike Brown and the New York Knicks. Now, do I think it's going to happen? No. But honestly, I don't know what's going to happen with the Knicks because they don't know what's going to happen. They don't seem to know what in the world is going on. But Mike Brown could pull the biggest flex, and no disrespect, I understand we're all here living in Sacramento, to go, and it's not even about the city as much as it's about just everything going on with the Kings right now, to get laid off from the Sacramento Kings, to continue to be paid by the Sacramento Kings, and to get a job with the New York Knicks would be the biggest flex. I don't care if he gets canned after 1 year with the Knicks. I really don't. Because we know they go to the playoffs. That would be the biggest flex on your ex I have ever seen. And I have no clue if it'll happen. Like I said, I don't think it will. A lot of people we fought back and forth with about Mike Brown, and it was never even about not firing Mike Brown for me. It was just firing Mike Brown after 30 games. That's what it has always been for me. It just was the process, right? People always argue the process with the Sacramento Kings. Not what they did, the process. Hiring Scott Perry, the process of that. Hiring Doug Christie, the process of that. I like Scott Perry. I was actually rewatching Scott Perry's intro presser last night. I mean, the guy is so personable. So personable. So it is not about the end result. It's the process that makes fans upset, that makes the media want to question things, and we don't get answers as to what the process or the thought process was because we don't hear from the ownership, typically. So that's the problem. It's not the end result. It's the process. So if Mike Brown is able to pull this off, which, like I said, I don't think he will. A lot of names have been thrown around. We'll get into that in about 7 minutes here. But that would be the biggest flex while you're getting paid by Sacramento I have ever seen. We have our NBA trade candidate of the day. Yeah, Kyle's going to be upset, but this is going to be the easiest one ever. If you listen to the show, I should add. And if you're new to the show, thank you for joining us. He's on our ban list. It's gotten to the point where Kyle asked me yesterday, can he be removed from the ban list? We have a ban list for the show. People and things that we don't talk about. Kyle asked me, can we remove this player from the ban list? We've talked about him ad nauseum, okay? And it is to the point now where there are so many other names being thrown around, we're going back to our roots. And this is all I'm going to say. It's not Kyle Kuzma. That's all I have to say.
Now there's only two options left.
That's all I have to say.
There's only two other players on the ban
Nobody was
list.
going to guess Kyle Kuzma anyway, hopefully. So that is our trade candidate of the day. And we will get to that at 11 o'clock. The roundtable, I believe full strength, returns today. Chris Watkins. That's right.
That's what we do.
Chris Watkins, Brendan Nunez, Franco Cardo, Frankie Cardicelli makes his long-awaited return. We cannot wait to talk to all three of them, as that will be from 12 to 1 o'clock. Get their thoughts. I know that some of them have been kind of hanging around and doing some research on the workouts that the Kings have been having. So really excited to hear from those guys and get an update on what's going on. If the A's lose tonight, by the way, today, they could be, the game's going to start during our show. It probably won't end during our show because when you score 12 runs like the other team typically does, that makes the game take longer. But if the A's lose today, they could be looked at as the worst team in the franchise history of the A's. That's how they could be looked at. And you want to know why? Last night, they lost 6-1. They are now 1-20 in their last 21 games, matching the worst record over a 21-game stretch in A's history. We know we've talked about 1943. Let's throw in two other dates. The worst stretch in A's history since they did it in 1916. I need video. 1920. I need video. And 1943. I really need video. That's how bad. And Kyle's on the phone right now. We are going to look up what was going on in 1916. We are going to look up what was going on in 1920. That's how bad the A's have been. And we're dealing with it's got to be close to the first baseball game ever played. That's how far we're going back with how bad the A's have been. On the other side, I tried to tell y'all about Daniel Johnson. Okay? I am down. I am in the depths in Sacramento with the River Cats. Daniel Johnson, Vallejo, born and bred, the Valley Joe, Daniel Johnson gets an opportunity. He gets called up to the Giants, to the big show. I saw this dude hit a ball halfway up the grassy hill at Sutter Health. They call it the berm. Halfway up the berm. Daniel Johnson, he gets to the big show. I'm working to try to get him on the show, this show, and he takes care of business. The Giants get it done. So one team trying to figure it out. The other team, I look up because they play at the same time most nights, and I'll look up and the Giants game will end. I'll flip over to the A's, and they're just already dead. They're every time. I kind of, you know when you're waiting for the clock to change or something and you got one eye half open, you're trying to waste time in a way. I'll click the remote with one eye half open, hoping to see the A's winning the baseball game or it just be a close game. And then I click to it and it's 5-1. It's just insanity.
Okay, so I will say this. We can do the joke later. We're not going to find anything funnier than this. In 1920, the last time the A's went 1-22, women did not have the right to vote.
Insane. The A's, well, there's a joke there, but I'm going to leave it. 916-339-1140. We got you for the next 4 hours when we return, breaking down the small market NBA Finals, how both teams built it up, and what Adam Silver thinks about not having a big city in the big finale. Allen Stiles, Sacktown Sports.
Wesley Financial Group is not a law firm.
Chuck McDowell here again. Over the years, I've seen way too many timeshare exit companies pop up, take folks' money, and disappear. I just saw an ad from an exit company started by a couple of bozos that used to work for me. My advice, don't hire bozos I fire. Want out of your timeshare? I'll send you our free timeshare exit info kit explaining your options for cancellation.
Call Wesley for your free kit. Call 800-995-2929. That's 800-995-2929.
Every success you've had began with a great opportunity. Now there's another one. Last aid year, University of Maryland Global Campus awarded over $21 million in scholarships to qualified students, including community college students, service members, veterans, and working adults. Now is the time to move your career forward with an online and accredited skills-based education. Learn more at umgc.edu. Certified to operate in Virginia by Chef.
Allen Stiles. Watch the show on youtube.com/Sacktown Sports 1140.
Or listen on the Sacktown Sports app.
No, well, the streak continues, by the way. UPS Chris, he was correct again, guessing the trade candidate of the day. And the A's lost again. So both streaks continue. Which streak will end first? UPS Chris, one of our P0s or P1s on the text line, listens every day. And that's how he was able to get this, or guess the trade candidate right. And again, he's on the ban list, and it's not Kyle Kuzma. That's all we can do. That is all we can do today.
I feel like there's only two choices it could be.
That's all we can do today. And why we put things on the ban list when they get talked about too much. Okay?
Yeah, it was these two players and Kyle Kuzma. It was those three players. It was Keon Ellis in the starting lineup.
Yeah, right. And Malik, I think it was Malik Monk. Well, it was Malik Monk sitting or whatever.
Yeah,
but
it was the Malik Monk for Keon Ellis, yeah.
To Keon Ellis. So
there was one other thing, but I think it doesn't matter anymore.
So I've talked about how I'm not the best teammate in the world, and I want somebody else to make the coffee. I want somebody else to, if there's something wrong with the tech, Kyle, please come in here and fix it. I'm also, I don't know if this makes me a bad teammate, but, Chris Verlade will bring donuts, I don't know, maybe once a month, maybe a couple times a month. And unless I'm missing it on the show before I start listening to the morning show, nobody really brings it up, right? There'll be a thank you here or there, but Chris Verlade just does it out of the goodness of his heart. I bring in donuts one time. I want everybody to know. I brought donuts in today. I literally have gone all around the building telling people.
The first thing you did when you walked in with the donuts was, I also brought one for the sales team.
No, that's right. And I walked around and I told them, I wrote a note on the sales team donut box.
No, you know the phrase "no good deed goes unpunished."
Yeah,
that's Allen Stiles' mantra.
I'm kissing up. I gotta get paid, man.
You're saying it on the radio, hoping they hear you.
That's right. I hope you enjoy those Natomas donuts. And I always knew best donuts in Sacramento per CBS. I knew this.
Even though you wanted it to not be on the list.
I either don't be on the list or be number one. That's if you're not first or last, it's Ricky Bobby. So I hope everybody's enjoying it. And look, it's almost Friday. So, and apparently Cody from KNCI was telling me that tomorrow is National Donut Day. So I was off by a day, but ain't nobody in the office on Fridays anyway. So on Friday.
You've played this right, though, which is also the interesting thing is that Verlade brings the donuts in usually on Fridays. Right. But you've played it perfect because if you go to the donut shop tomorrow and ask for 3 boxes of donuts, you got no shot.
That's right.
It's National Donut Day. They're tapped out.
And I don't know how time works, but it's got to be tomorrow overseas or something. It's tomorrow in Australia or something. I'm sure of it. I'm sure.
I'm going to actually say that might not be true. I don't know where the international date line is. I don't think that's true.
That's what I would do when it was Lent and my mom would be on me for, hey, you can't eat meat on Fridays or whatever it is. I would just say, Mom, it's Saturday in, I don't know, Japan or something. It's got to be right. 916-339-1140.
Oh, it is 5 a.m. on Friday in New Zealand.
Mom, I'm on Australia. I'm on New Zealand time. Leave me alone. Let me eat this burger. Small market NBA Finals. They're about to take a big bite out of the small market arguments that have been had. And the OKC Thunder and Indiana Pacers have only one top 10 draft pick in their starting 5. Let me say that again. The Thunder and the Pacers have only one top 10 draft pick in their starting 5. Allen, we got to tank and we got to do this, we got to do that. And I get it. But if you make, and this is why the DeMontis Sabonis Halliburton trade, so much of it is about what was done after the trade, right? You can draft, look at the Pelicans. They get a number 1. It's like a cycle. They get a number 1 every 3 years. And they haven't won jack.
It's literally every 7. If you follow it, it's like 05 was Chris Paul, 2012 was Anthony Davis, 2019 was Zion, 2026, Pelicans number 1 pick.
Finals starters by draft position, okay? You have the Pacers 11th, 12th, 14th, 27th, 31st. Thunder by draft position 2nd, 11th, 12th, 43rd, and undrafted.
Do you think you know who's who on that list?
I know Chet is 2nd. That's the obvious one. I mean, it's the starters, easier. Right?
Yeah, these are the starters.
Right. Was Shea 11th or 12th?
Here, we'll play this like the bottles game. I'll tell you how many you have correct after you guess them.
Yeah, the Pacers is going to be more difficult. Obviously, Halliburton went 12th, right? Or was that 14th?
You got to put them all together first before we do it.
Halliburton was definitely, it was either 12th or 14th.
Hey, try the Thunder first. The Thunder's a little easier.
Chet was 2nd. Shea was 12th, and then you have Lou Dort, got to be the undrafted one, I think. I don't know. Does Caruso start? Start? No, he doesn't start.
It's the other big man.
Oh, Jalen Williams. He must have been. Yeah, Jalen Williams and Shea are 11th and 12th.
Yeah,
I know that. And then you have Hartenstein, undrafted. No, 43rd.
So just give me your final answer. I'll tell you how many.
Just say it, Kyle.
All right. So Chet 2, SGA 11, Jalen Williams 12, Hartenstein 43, and Lou Dort undrafted.
Okay.
And then for the Pacers, 11th Miles Turner, 12th Tyrese Halliburton, 14th Aaron Nesmith, 27th Pascal Siakam, and 31st Andrew Nembhard.
Crazy. 31st Andrew Nembhard. You got to hit on this stuff, man. And every pick, I think that, and that's a testament that every pick matters. Literally. Might not feel like it all, right? All these teams, the Jazz, we already know who the Jazz have their eye on. The Jazz, we didn't get Cooper Flag. Man, oh man, this is rough. Look, every single pick matters. Kyle, let's hear from Adam Silver and what he had to say as far as the small market NBA finals.
I mean, if we were going into a Super Bowl and it was Packers against Steelers, you guys would be celebrating that. Those would be storied franchises. People wouldn't be talking about, the fact that Pittsburgh is a small market. So in fact, I'm happy whatever team ends up in the finals, but it's been intentional from our standpoint to create a system, a collective bargaining agreement that allows more teams to compete. And just by way of background, we're going to have to go through a process of getting to the point where people are accustomed to tuning into the finals because it's the two teams that deserve to be there and it's the best basketball. Similar to, again, with the Super Bowl, if I asked somebody if they were going to watch the Super Bowl, they wouldn't say who's playing. It's a national holiday. And now that's nirvana.
That's
I'm not saying we're anywhere close to that yet. There's still, if the Knicks are in the finals, there's a segment of our fan base that's going to watch that may not watch if it's other teams. But my job is to get people to love and follow this game. And so that if you're a huge basketball fan, you should want to tune into the finals because that's the best basketball.
It's interesting because is the issue market or is the issue the star isn't big enough, right? At the same time, you have to be able to grow along with the star. And there is an example of this happening in the same city as one of the teams that are playing in the NBA Finals right now. We will tell you what that example is when we return. Allen Stiles, Sacktown Sports.
Allen Stiles here with your Sacktown Sports injury update, brought to you by Downtown LA Law Group. Jose Leclerc, right-handed pitcher out with that right lat strain, recently began playing catch, though the A's expect a long recovery process before he returns to action. Gio Urshela had an MRI which confirmed a left hamstring strain. He is sidelined from baseball activity for the time being with no timeline for a return yet. That was your Sacktown Sports injury update, brought to you by Downtown LA Law Group.
Hey, I'm Allen Stiles. Have an injury? Call Downtown. Downtown LA Law Group, an injury law firm, has many happy clients in Sacramento and the surrounding areas who have called Downtown. Get paid for your injuries from slip and falls or auto accidents. One of their most recent settlements was $1.5 million for a motorcycle accident. Have you had an auto accident? Call Downtown. Text injury help to 40222. That's injury help to 40222 and visit them at calldowntown.com.
Progressive knows if you have to choose between everyday life and your boat, boat wins.
What are you going to do? Take the boat out for a spin or go mail something? Boat wins! Are we cleaning the patio or taking the boat out fishing? Boat wins! Are we skipping that eye exam to go sailing? Boat wins!
Rescheduling eye exams can be a nightmare.
All right, fine. Eye exam, then boat.
Yeah! With Progressive, you can bundle your boat with your home or auto and save with a discount and spend more time enjoying those savings on your boat. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company, affiliates, and other insurers. Not available in all states and situations.
Ready to order?
Yes. We're earning unlimited 3% cash back on dining and entertainment with the Capital One Saver Card. So let's just get one of everything.
Everything?
Fire everything. The Capital One Saver Card is at table 27 and they're earning unlimited 3% cash back.
Yes, Chef! This is so nice.
Had a feeling you'd want 3% cash back on dessert.
Ooh, tiramisu.
Earn unlimited 3% cash back on dining and entertainment with the Capital One Saver Card. Capital One, what's in your wallet?
Terms apply. See CapitalOne.com for details. An Australian hiker travels to the American West to walk a wilderness trail.
Wasn't afraid to be out on his own.
But Eric Robinson vanished in the high Uinta Mountains.
I remember thinking, Eric, what were you thinking, mate?
I'm Dave Cawley. Join me on my podcast, Uinta Triangle, where I travel the world to answer the question, what happened to Eric Robinson? Follow Uinta Triangle. That's UINTA Triangle on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen.
I'm Ken Korak with your Green and Gold Report, brought to you by Comcast Business, powering possibilities. Well, looking for something positive in the midst of a dismal stretch for the A's, center fielder Denzel Clark, finishing his second weekend in the big leagues and playing in his hometown of Toronto, went 4 for 9 with a home run in the last 3 games of the series and also made a sensational Spider-Man leaping catch over the wall in center field, robbing Alejandro Kirk of a home run. Comcast Business helps turn today's small businesses into engines of modern business. It's how restaurants become reliably up and running neighborhood favorites. It's how retailers become seamlessly restocking, cyber-securing must-visit shops. And it's how healthcare offices become data-managing caregivers that we all depend on. With reliable connectivity, enhanced cybersecurity, advanced fiber solutions, and Wi-Fi backup, Comcast Business is powering the engine of modern business.
The Hagen Oaks Cutting Edge Putter Fitting Studio offers you more technology, more choices, and more service. Hagen Oaks wants to be your go-to total golf game fitter. With $30,000 worth of state-of-the-art technology ready for your fitting, Hagen Oaks will help you make your best putting stroke while finding the best putter design, shape, hosel, length, and loft for your game. Schedule your fitting at the Hagen Oaks Player Performance Studio by calling 916-808-2531. That's 808-2531 for more.
Live and local.
It's Allen Stiles
On Sacktown Sports.
Is it about market? Is it about star power? What is it about when it comes to the NBA powering through the fact that Steph Curry and LeBron James are not going to be around forever? That's the reality. And when I look at stars and how stars ascend and transcendent stars, they're not all the same, no. But nobody gives a hell that Caitlin Clark is in Indiana. I mean, she played at Iowa. She wasn't at Duke or any of these. I mean, Iowa, sure. Big Ten, I think, at this point. Big Ten.
She wasn't at UConn.
She wasn't at UConn. But her star power won once in a lifetime, right? So maybe that's not even fair. But nobody cared that Caitlin Clark was going to get drafted to the Indiana Fever. Nobody was saying, oh, she's got to go to Los Angeles. She's got to go in the Sparks. Oh, she's got to go to this big market because of how big her star power was. Now, again, there's only one Caitlin Clark. This is one of the most famous athletes, honestly, you could argue, of our generation. And that's where it's headed. She has completely changed the game. But we go back and forth with a lot of the stars and the 2 stars that we just mentioned. A kid from Akron, actually 2 kids from Akron, technically, with Steph Curry as well. But both of those guys, right? LeBron went to the Cavs. Nobody was huffing and puffing because, again, he was one of the biggest prospects we had seen, since Kobe? And LeBron goes to Cleveland. Oh, man. Now, later on, yes, conversations came up. He's got to go somewhere else, and LeBron wasn't winning. And it was kind of weird how people kind of enjoyed that he wasn't winning as our landscape changed. And then athletes just got a little bit more cocky, a little bit more confident. It wasn't, I'm just so happy to be here. But LeBron ends up in Miami based on his decision. But even in Cleveland, nobody at first was clamoring for him. Oh, he's got to get out immediately. And we do it. Don't get me wrong. When Wembanyama goes to the Spurs, it's fine. Right now, nobody is saying he's got to go to LA. People are saying, no, he's going to get Kevin Durant and others and build something in San Antonio. Steph Curry, I've talked about this before. The Bay Area extremely confusing when it comes to a market, right? A lot of people now we would say big market. Now we would say, and Warrior fans will tell you all the time, why I don't understand why Steph doesn't get a good whistle when the best show in the NBA. They should want Steph in the finals. I'm sure they do, but besides, we believe, and all the other Warriors teams, nobody was calling the Warriors a big market team. And I don't care whether they were in Oakland or if they were in San Francisco that whole time. Nobody was calling the Warriors a destination big market spot. Now Steph Curry is there. Steph Curry, I think, could have been on the Pacers, and everybody would be tuning in because of what he does. So I don't know if the issue is so much the markets versus the types of stars. Now, again, when it comes to Steph Curry, you have to build, right? Stars are different. LeBron, Caitlin Clark, that's in one category. Steph Curry, I think what we're looking at with Tyrese Halliburton and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, they are more so in the Steph Curry category in that, okay, let's see this dude win. I don't think either of them are as exciting as Steph, but Steph is, again, one of a kind. But let's see these dudes win. Let's see them be a staple, be exciting, and then we'll kind of rock and roll from there. Then they can work their way to be the face of the NBA. And I've talked about this before. I really don't know how much of it is about the actual market. It's about the team. And I think the issue and what you'll probably suffer from this finals is not really about the markets. It's about the fact that Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is not traditionally exciting. And Tyrese Halliburton, I would say, is more exciting than Shai, but he's going to pass the rock. The way he does it, there's no transcendence in this NBA Finals. I think that's a bigger issue to the finals. I think it's going to be, I hope it's a good series. I actually don't know because OKC might roll, but I don't know how much of this, and we know the NBA and NFL, and people are saying, how can you compare Indiana, Oklahoma City to even quote unquote small markets with the Steelers and who Adam Silver brought up? Well, you can't be storied franchises if you don't get the opportunity. Again, now people would say the Warriors have to be in there. Now, I don't know if the Warriors are a storied franchise now or if it's all Steph Curry. I really think it's the latter. But now all of a sudden the Warriors are a storied franchise because they have a story. And they had it with Steph Curry. So I don't know how much of this is actually, again, I'm not sure how well the Timberwolves would have done in the finals, but I do know that Anthony Edwards, his athleticism is viewed as transcendent. He's got that it factor that is just a bit infectious to people. And I do think that they probably would have drawn better, honestly, even though OKC is a better team, if it was Minnesota, Indiana, than OKC, Indiana, simply because I don't know how much of it is about the city. I think it's just about, is this exciting to watch? And if you put an exciting player, you can put that exciting player in Antarctica. And people, if you built a team in Antarctica and put Steph Curry or Caitlin Clark on that team, people would watch. They'd watch.
Sure. And to your point about the football comparison, what is the biggest rivalry in football right now, if you had to pick one?
The biggest, I mean, somebody in the is probably still Eagles Cowboys, I guess.
No, sorry. I meant like in terms of the actual like football itself. Like what it's Buffalo, Kansas City is what I was going for.
Okay.
Buffalo, Kansas City is Oklahoma City, Indiana. But everyone thinks Buffalo, Kansas City is awesome. No one thinks Oklahoma City and Indiana is awesome yet.
Right.
No one thought Buffalo and Kansas City was awesome at first, but then you eventually got there with the star power, which, to your point about Minnesota, I agree with you on the Indiana part of it because we're all shocked Indiana is there. Like if you had come in at the start of the playoffs and told me Indiana's going to be in the finals, we all would have been surprised. The league had all year to know that this Oklahoma City thing was coming. And maybe next year they'll do better with putting them on national TV and giving them more coverage and trying to market Shea Gilgeous-Alexander and Chet Holmgren and Jalen Williams and Hartenstein and all those guys. Maybe they'll do a better job next year with it, but we all saw this was coming. They were the best team from day one of the season till the end of the regular season, a historically great offense and defense, and ran through the Western Conference playoffs apart from a 7-game series against the Nuggets where they beat them by 50 in Game 7. So Oklahoma City, I think the league, you talked about market versus marketability. I feel like the Thunder themselves are hugely marketable. Shea's playing style is hugely marketable.
I disagree, personally.
He's basically Kobe Bryant.
But isn't the argument that I don't know, and first of all, he's not. He does not dunk like Kobe.
Sure, but Kobe wasn't dunking like that in 2006.
That's fine. I think that you could make the argument, you can blame Steph Curry if you want, that the game has changed. I don't think that there's anything, again, LeBron is a monster. We've had this conversation, and we can disagree. That's fine. But I do not think, I think that from a culture standpoint, hey, we bark and we all kind of hang out in the post-game pressers. I think that is more marketable than Shea and honestly kind of what they do on the court, funny enough. I think that's why they're in those commercials singing all the time.
See, what's interesting is, I mean, again, that's just AT&T putting them in a commercial. That's not a barometer for how marketable Shea and Jalen and Chet are. But
there's more commercials than other. I mean, is Halliburton in any commercials yet?
He probably will be this summer.
He will be now.
I bet you he will be.
He better be.
I don't think that's the barometer, though. I think the league has to market you as a star, as a face of the league. Not to say that you are going to be one, but just give you the runway to become that. And they did not do that with Oklahoma City. It was all about Luka and LeBron and Steph Curry.
And that's what I was going to say. A couple things real quick. The first thing is, Kyle, I know you can either remember this or look this up quickly. Did OKC play on Christmas?
They did not, because this is the first finals ever with no Christmas team.
That is the type of stuff that we're talking about, right? That right there is a kind of a feather in your cap, Kyle, to where Adam Silver has to wear that, right? A 1 seed not being in Christmas because you're trying to milk the same names you've been milking is a problem. That is what you're talking about, Kyle, when it comes to you should have seen this coming.
But also just the coverage, but yes.
You're a 1 seed and you didn't play on Christmas. That's crazy. That's unacceptable.
Oh, and you were also the 1 seed last year.
No, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I'm saying basing it on last year, they should have played on Christmas. Yes. That's what I'm saying. That's the first part of this. The other part of this is as far as what the NBA was hoping for, I think, and I'm not going tinfoil hat here. I'm not saying the NBA was involved. I would never say any of that. But I think they saw the Luka trade go down, and they thought, Luka and LeBron, a 3 seed? Oh, we're good. We don't have to worry about OKC because I'm pretty sure that, and you saw it, if it's not the NBA proper, it's the 4-letter network, it's Fox, it's all these people talking. They all had the Lakers getting to the finals because you have 2 top 10, top 7 players on the same team. So I think that the NBA, so at that point, it was obviously the trade deadline. So at that point, the NBA still had some decisions to make, but I think that they felt we just got to get out of jail free card because Luka and LeBron, I'm going to bet on them. And I think they, honestly, Kyle, I think they will feel like that moving forward. I think that Nico Harrison and the Mavericks gave the NBA another excuse. Even I think once you win, let's say OKC loses, right? Because we're focused on the Western Conference because the Eastern Conference is different. Let's say OKC loses. If they win, you're undeniable. You got to play on Christmas, right?
Sure.
I would say they'll play on Christmas either way.
They'll play against Denver probably.
Right. But if you lose in the finals, OKC, I think that is still an excuse now that you have a full off season with Luka and LeBron. And they're not the only team in the West, but you have a full off season with Luka and LeBron to find a way to, and I know Shea won MVP, but to find a way to to rise up and to pull up the Lakers once again and not talk about the Thunder if the Thunder don't win the whole thing, which sounds insane. But yeah, I mean, Luke is an international superstar and LeBron is LeBron. So I honestly feel like this move, long-term, probably good for the NBA, but short-term for the health of building these other brands that they need to do, I don't know how good it is. And the Thunder have to be undeniable. The Warriors were undeniable. If the Warriors, if they lose that 3-1, because a lot of people say that the Warriors, even though they were 73-9, the Cavs were a better team, right? Steph wasn't the Steph that he is. There's a lot of conversation about he was the first unanimous MVP, but could he go get a bucket on his own all the time? He wasn't fully healthy. Fine. A lot of people felt like if they didn't get KD, people had kind of caught up to what the Warriors were doing. And the only reason I bring that up is because if they tried to run it back with Mr. Harrison Barnes, right, and they don't, let's say they lose in the second round, Western Conference Finals, whatever, that marketing for Steph completely changes. They go get Kevin Durant, and as much as people were talking trash about him, they made themselves undeniable.
Right.
Undeniable.
They built the greatest team in NBA history, and that's what makes you the face, is if you are great and there's no denying your greatness,
yes.
Which you're making the case Oklahoma City is on their way to that. Mm-hmm. And that'll probably happen when they win the championship because they're so young. I'd argue they'd rather have that conundrum than the other one, which is if the Pacers win the championship, they're not going to know what to do.
No, but they'll just, you know what? If the Pacers win the championship, and I know this guy was a bigger star because it took him longer and the way he plays than Halliburton, it'll be like the Bucks. I was just going to say that. We got to get to break, but I was just going to say that. The Bucks won the championship and the NBA didn't do squat. The NBA just, cool, bet, all right, we'll get you in a Christmas game, but where's Steph and LeBron and KD? Where y'all at?
But Giannis was also a superstar, like two-time MVP.
And even still, Bucks won the championship and nobody cared, and they did not make anybody care.
No. And I don't think anyone would be picking the Pacers next year if they won the championship.
Definitely not. I don't know who they would pick in the East, to be honest, but whoever it would be losing to the West. When we return, New York, what in the world is going on in New York City with the Knicks? Allen Stiles, Sacktown Sports.
This is the story of the one. As a safety manager at a manufacturing plant, he does everything he can to keep his coworkers safe. From finding ways to reduce risks to keeping safety supplies in stock. And for that, he relies on Grainger. Grainger offers a broad range of quality products and next-day delivery, so he can always play it safe. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Patrick was way behind on his IRS taxes.
I was in way over my head, and the total amount ended up being somewhere just over $30,000. $30,000.
Then the IRS came to collect.
Started getting letter after letter. A lien had been filed against me. They were going to basically hang me completely out to dry.
He had to do something.
That's when I reached out to Optima Tax Relief.
Patrick's life quickly got a lot easier.
It was very easy, pretty much hands off. They picked up the ball and ran with it.
And how'd it go?
I couldn't believe it. I had to ask 2 or 3 times. I saved an incredible amount of money.
How does Patrick feel about Optima?
Couldn't be happier. They definitely helped me. Optima Tax Relief, the best place to call. They're the best in the business.
Do what Patrick did and call Optima Tax Relief for a free consultation. Call 800-343-6460. 800-343-6460. 800-343-6460.
Optima Tax Relief.
Testimonial from an actual client. Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
Hey, it's Carmichael Dave here for Capital Casino, Sacramento's #1 poker room, inviting you to come join them every Wednesday for their midweek madness drawing, giving away $2,000 in total cash starting at 6 p.m. It's a safe and friendly environment, plenty of well-lit parking available, and it's conveniently located right there in downtown Sacramento. And remember, best food, best service, best games, 411 North 16th Street in downtown Sacramento. For more information, log on to capital-casino.com and gamble responsibly. 1-800-GAMBLER.
If your passion is bass fishing, only one radio show has the action, information, and excitement of your favorite outdoor sport. Ultimate Bass, hosted by Tournament Bass Pro and California Outdoor Hall of Famer Kip Brown, takes you live to where the fish are biting every Saturday morning. Only Ultimate Bass feeds your passion with the latest news, products, tips, and advice from the pros. Ultimate Bass with Kip Brown, Saturday mornings at 5 a.m. on Sacktown Sports 1140, part of SEP's Saturday Morning Outdoors.
Get ready for a night out with Jordan Davis. It's Country in the Park 2, Saturday, September 13th at Cal Expo. Along with special guests Mitchell Tenpenny, Low Cash, Vincent Mason, and Abriana. Make it a family day out with food trucks, games, dancing, and more. Saturday, September 13th at Cal Expo with Michelob Ultra. Tickets are available now at CITPFest.com.
Allen Stiles
You can join the show by texting 916-339-1140
on Sacktown Sports.
New York, New York. I thought there was only drama in Sacramento. Well, apparently not. As the numerous amounts of TV shows that are either in New York or staged to be in New York, there is always plenty of drama in the Big Apple. And there is really a lot to break down here. And there is a Kings connection that we will bring up as well. Kyle, first, let's get to that Sam Amick sound as the Knicks, in a surprise move, moved on from Coach Tom Thibodeau, and the search is on for a new coach. We were trying to, we were on, I think, right before or the firing happened, either when we were on air or right as we were getting on air. So we were trying to figure out, is this about the players? It seemed like Jalen Brunson and the crew liked Tom Thibodeau, and this is what Sam Amick had to say.
Looked like they just did something they haven't done in a quarter century. Like, that probably means he should continue doing the job. There were not, to my knowledge, there were not, this was not a player revolt thing. There was not, disharmony in the locker room. Of course, there's a discussion led mostly by Mikal Bridges on playing time at times, but it's still crazy. Like, got to the conference finals, franchise that has been in the dumps for a long time. And
that was Sam Amick of The Athletic, just kind of saying this is not really when we followed the Nuggets situation, yes, there was arguments with Michael Malone and Calvin Booth, but the writing was a little bit on the wall when we heard Michael Malone say out loud, yeah, dudes don't want to watch film and they don't want to do certain things. There was nothing like that with Tibbs. Now, he may have thought it, but he didn't say it out loud. And, to do something that they haven't done in over a decade, well over a decade.
25 years.
Yeah, a lot of this just didn't make sense. So this is what Michael Kay had to say as well. He says, Tibbs lost a power struggle with Worldwide Wes, who convinced Dolan and essentially went over Leon's head. Another factor, the front office below Leon resented Tibbs getting the credit for the turnaround. If they made a suggestion he didn't like, he would call them out, so they felt disrespected. Thus, they spread the narrative that no one wanted to work with a grumpy old man. Only getting to the finals would have saved his job. So essentially an inside job where you have the GM and assistant GM. And again, very similar. This part is similar to the Nuggets, where you have drama between the GMs and coaches, and it just didn't really work out. I'm trying to remember, Kyle, how that timing all happened as far as Leon becoming the GM and Tibbs becoming head coach. If they were, where this thing went awry, were they ever kind of lockstep? Who was hired before who, how that all kind of went down?
So the coach was fired. So I'm trying to remember when Fizdale was fired.
Right.
I think it was early right before the pandemic season. It was weird because, like, let's see, Fizdale was fired in 2019. Okay, so Fizdale, just looking it up real quick. So December 9th, he got fired, and they also fired the guy who was above Scott Perry. I think it was Steve Mills was his name. So they fired Steve Mills. They fired David Fizdale. They hire Leon Rose. Leon Rose hires Tibbs as the head coach. That was his first choice for coach. Then Perry stays for another, I think it was 2 years as the general manager to him as president.
Right.
And then they move on from Scott Perry and bring in Worldwide Wes, who, for those who don't know, he was Leon Rose's guy at like his agent at Creative Arts, LeBron connections, Kevin, like all the big players of the 2000s were represented by Worldwide Wes and Leon Rose. And then he's essentially the vice president to Leon Rose being the president.
So at some point it went south, and that's what we're seeing now. I don't know where this thing lands in, I don't know, a decade, but these stories that maybe it's just part of the gig, but these stories we keep hearing about GMs and coaches just not getting along. I feel like if you look at owners, all these owners are successful businessmen and women. That's kind of how they found themselves in these situations. And when you have an issue that continues to come up, whether it be because you hired the GM before the coach, or you hired the coach before the GM, or maybe the GM even picked the coach and it goes south, I don't know. I'm not saying that they will do away with one position or another, but I do think in these situations, if you're looking at the importance of the role, and now we see all these interim coaches get hired, it kind of brings me back to our discussion just about how much money these players are making. And I would never call it the death of the head coach, but maybe head coach is becoming less important, because you can look at Phil Jackson all you want. You can look at Steve Kerr all you want, and you can sit there and say, oh man, they press all the right buttons. But there are a lot of people out there that say, well, look who Phil Jackson got to coach, and look who Steve Kerr got to coach. On the other hand, you can make the argument, isn't somebody like Sam Presti, could you argue Sam Presti more important than Eric Spoelstra? Because you got to get the correct pieces. Coaching matters, don't get me wrong, but they wouldn't blink for two, as great as Mark Daigneault has been. They would not blink for 2 seconds if it was a conversation between Sam Presti and Mark Daigneault. If you had to lose one of them, OKC ownership would not blink once. So I feel like this is just another way of heading towards head coaches just being more disposable.
Well, I mean, they're already disposable, but I look at it more as a change in what the coaching position is, right? Because sing the praises of Phil Jackson all you want. Phil Jackson flamed out with the New York Knicks at the end. He tried to integrate triangle offense as the president, and they told him to bleep off.
Yeah.
And Phil Jackson was a disaster with the New York Knicks. So I think some of these guys, I'm not saying this is an indictment of Tibbs. I'm saying some of these the power struggles are always going to see the coach losing. But I think conflict between players and a front office, or conflict between a front office and a coach, or conflict between a coach and some other third party get resolved more often with the coach being the one who falls, because a quality CEO or front office person or head basketball decision maker is the second most valuable thing in the sport, behind the superstar player who wants to remain there. I think it's just in the pecking order, the coach has decreased importance when it comes to winning or losing power struggles.
Stefan Bondi, who covers the Knicks for the New York Post, he had this to say, quote, Jason Kidd, another potential candidate, is also under contract with the Mavericks, but the possibility of shaking him loose is less clear at this point. 2 random names I heard recently for the Knicks job are Mike Brown and Luke Walton. Wowie zowie, Sacramento Kings.
We can talk about the ins and outs of that. I just think it's so funny how he phrased it as two random names.
Yeah.
Like, why would they want these Sacramento Kings retreads?
Yeah, I don't know.
Why would you want that?
Well, in the quote, it says, I heard recently for the Knicks job are Mike Brown, and then in parentheses, currently unemployed, and Luke Walton, and then has parentheses, lead assistant in Detroit. I can't wager on the air, but Luke Walton is not going to be the head coach of the New York Knicks.
I would be shocked if
There's
Luke
no
Walton
way.
is the coach.
There's no way. I don't think Mike Brown would be the head coach of the New York Knicks, because to me, and I always talk about this when it comes to politics, and we've kind of joked about this, when you have a Democrat in the office for a while, normally it goes over to Republican. You have a Republican in the office for a while, then it goes back to Democrat. That's just how it typically goes, because people just get tired of something. The reason I don't think it'll be Mike Brown is not because I don't think Mike Brown is a good head coach, and I hope it happens, because I like drama, and it would be great for the show if Mike Brown gets head coach of the New York Knicks and they go back to the final. That would be incredible for the show, because I don't think the Kings are doing anything next season, but I hope I'm wrong there too. The reason I don't think it won't be Mike Brown is simply because I just feel like he's too similar to Tom Thibodeau. Now, here's the other argument. If the issue wasn't actually the X's and O's with Tom Thibodeau, right, or it wasn't as much as the X's and O's as it was just how he was handling things, maybe you say, well, yeah, we can get a Tom Thibodeau without the drama of Tom Thibodeau, and maybe that's why you like Mike Brown. But me personally, I do think that he's a little bit too similar to Tibbs, and that is why they'd be interested. But ultimately, if you're going to fire a head coach, a lot of these guys, you look at the Kings are weird. I don't know if they went in a completely different direction, because Doug Christie was on the staff and says a lot of the same things Mike Brown does. But you look at the Grizzlies, they went in a kind of a completely different direction. You look at the Nuggets, kind of a different direction, just based on how these guys kind of are, right?
You can even just say went from a non-player to a former player.
I'm even talking, right, personality. I'm not even really talking philosophy here. When we return, he was on the ban list. He's getting removed off the ban list for today, our trade candidate, and he's not Kyle Kuzma. Allen Stiles, Sacktown Sports.
Every success you've had began with a great opportunity. Now there's another one. Last aid year, University of Maryland Global Campus awarded over $21 million in scholarships to qualified students, including community college students, service members, veterans, and working adults. Now is the time to move your career forward with an online and accredited skills-based education. Learn more at umgc.edu. Certified to operate in Virginia by Chef.
If there's one thing we know about dads, it's that they're not easy to shop for. Enter Kohl's. They've got everything from Nike golf gear to his favorite Levi's jeans. And you can save 20% on other finds like Flex Athleisure and Izod workwear. So if you're not sure what to get Dad for Father's Day, you know where to go. Shop Kohl's now. Select styles. Offer ends June 15th. Some exclusions apply. Coupons do not apply to Nike and Levi's. See store or Kohl's.com for details.
Staples presents That Was Easy.
So we had a huge new business pitch.
Attention, all hands on deck.
When, boom, our only printer was fried.
Up in smoke, like your chances of landing that account.
Well, I just sent the file to Staples. Devin, the print associate, was on it. She had it printed and bound same day.
So where's the drama?
There wasn't any. Staples made it super easy.
Inconceivable. For the product, services, and experts you need, Staples.
That was easy.
In-store, online, and on the app.
This is the story of the one. As a lineman, he does whatever it takes to keep the power on in his community. And he wants a partner like Grainger who does the same. Grainger offers the professional-grade products he needs, from voltage detectors to harnesses to hard hats, plus fast, dependable delivery, so he can rise to every challenge. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Summer's almost here, and so are popsicles, pool days, and a lot of smiling. Make sure your kiddo's smile is ready with a visit to Kids Care Dental and Orthodontics. Our expert team makes dental visits easy and fun with sensory-friendly hours for kids who need a calmer environment. We can also accommodate same-day treatments, and to save you time, if your child needs multiple treatments, we can often do them all at once. Appointments fill up fast, so don't wait. Beat the summer rush and schedule online at kidscaredental.com. That's kidscaredental.com, where healthy, happy smiles begin.
Want the best movie experience in town? Join Sacktown Sports IMAX Pass by visiting sacktownsports.com. Sign up today. You can win tickets to see this week's films at the Esquire IMAX Theater.
KHD1 Sacramento, KYMX HD3 Sacramento. From the Power Business Technology Toshiba Studios.
Sacktown Sports, 1140. You're home for Kings Talk and so much more.
Live and local.
Allen Stiles on Sacktown Sports.
We have the Kings Roundtable coming up in an hour, and I believe we will be fully loaded. Brandon Nunes, Frankie Cardicelli, and Chris Watkins.
We bring the boom. That's what we do.
Why does Frankie get the? Why is he the only one with a sounder? They all deserve sounders.
We got to come up with one. He's also the guy with all the nicknames, right? He's the King's Cowboy. He's the Pizza Cowboy. He's the
King's Cowboy. I've never heard that.
Yeah, he was originally the King's Cowboy. And then at Media Day a couple of years ago, he took the last slice of pizza before other people had pizza. So he became the Pizza Cowboy. That's why we play that dumb Kid Rock song every time he comes on. It's because he's the King's Cowboy.
We'll ask Frankie about that on the air. They join us in an hour. But right now, it is time to have a conversation about somebody we are removing from the ban list for today. Not sure how long we will have him removed off the ban list for. Not Kyle Kuzma, but the one, the only, Cam Johnson.
I was going to guess John Collins.
He'll be coming up soon here shortly. Cam Johnson goes 6'8". He's 29 years old. He turned 29 in early March. He was drafted to the Timberwolves in the first round. He was the 11th overall pick. He is a power forward that is kind of known as a marksman, a sharpshooter. He played 57 games this season, and in those 57 games, 18.8 points per game, 6 points more than his career average. 4.3 rebounds per game. That's better than his 3.9 career average. 3.4 assists per game. That's better than his 2 assists career average. 47.5% from the field, better than his 45.3% career average. 39% from three, that ties his career average. 89% from free throw, that's 4 points better, 4 percentage points better than his career from the free throw line. Just a career year for Cam Johnson. What's not to like? Okay, we've talked about him before, what he is going to be able to do for the Kings if he is a part of the Kings or any team really. And the biggest issue with Cam Johnson, it's always been, one, his price tag, or one, his availability, and two, his price tag because of that availability. He's about to get paid $20.5 million. It's an outstanding contract. Now, look, he's 29 years old. He's going to be 30 next March. He's owed $22.5 next season, so 2 years left on his deal. The Nets have really dragged this thing out. It's gotten really quiet, which is either a really good thing or a really not so good thing with the Nets and Giannis. It's gotten real quiet. And if Giannis goes to the Nets, they are not moving Cam Johnson because they're trying to win. Unless they got some type of win now haul back, which I don't think they would, they are not moving Cam Johnson. So the Nets, let's assume they do not get Giannis, so they decide, let's just blow this thing up. Cam Thomas as well, making decisions on him and certain guys. So Cam Johnson is on the way out. So Allen, 20 mil a year, right in the middle of his prime. The timeline is perfect. What's not to like? Well, I'll tell you what's not to like. Games played for Cam Johnson all throughout his career, actually, as I'm going through this. Games played, okay? This season, he played 57. Last season, he played 58. The season before that, he played 42. In 2022, he played 66. In 2021, he played 60. His rookie season, he played 57. This brother has never played more than 66 games in a season. That's bad.
That is not healthy.
That is bad. And if I'm doing a deal, that is the first thing I'm telling the Nets. You ran out of time with him. I think the Nets should have moved him this season. Now, people like me that are getting paid a lot more than me are sitting looking at this saying, we want Cam Johnson, but things are flipping for you, Nets. And if you don't get Giannis, we know you're blowing it up. And you got a dude who's never played more than 66 games with 2 years left. And yeah, it's a good contract, but there are a lot of good contracts out there. Is it crazy, Kyle, based on what we talked about? I know it's a 1-year deal, but going to our trade candidate, and I know it's a wing-driven league, but going to our trade candidate from yesterday, is it crazy to say that people might be more interested in a Kobe White than a Cam Johnson at this point? 4 years younger, 1 year on the deal. Cam Johnson was a sexy, sexy name, and maybe I'm just making this up myself, but you look at the lack of games played, and the season is over now. He had that ankle, and we had this conversation. You need to move this man. He had the ankle thing happen. He doesn't even get to 60 games this season.
I think the answer to your question depends on what role you envision Kobe White to be. Because like Cam Johnson, we know what his role is. He's a number 4, right? Mm-hmm. He's a number 4 on a team that is trying to contend. He is a far more efficient shooter than Kobe White, but he's also taking like 4 less shots per game and is a better defender, right? Mm-hmm. You're getting a 3-and-D guy who is going to shoot 39% from 3, right? You know what you're signing up for with Cam Johnson. With Kobe White, there's a little bit of flexibility because, like, what do you envision Kobe White being after this one season? Or do you envision him being a more traditional point guard who only is scoring 15 points a game, right? Mm-hmm. I think you have to have some vision with Kobe White. With Cam Johnson, you know what you're getting, and I think that's why so many teams were reluctant to part with the 2 first-round pick.
No, there's no way. Tag. That is insane.
I'm not saying it's insane. I'm saying
I am saying it's insane.
Brooklyn's going to have to compromise somewhere. And there were reports from, I think it was Nets Daily, which is a very fun follow on Twitter if you want to follow him. He's like an 82-year-old guy who's like super plugged in. Mm-hmm. That was like the Nets are maybe trying to use Cam Johnson to move up in the lottery so they can get 2 lottery picks this year. Which tells me, A, they're not getting Giannis, which of course they're not going to get Giannis. They're not going to be able to compete with Cam Johnson, Nick Claxton, and draft picks when, you know, other teams are offering Karl Anthony Towns or, you know, some combination of whatever the Spurs have. So if they're not getting Giannis, I think they're in the camp of we're just going to go completely young team. And
you know what, Kyle?
Open roster spots.
You know what, Kyle? I don't like this at all. In about 4 minutes, we're going to break down the trade candidates and how the Kings would get him. Another guy that we talked about this week. If they don't, I don't think we just talked about how the Warriors cannot keep Draymond and Jimmy Butler. If they wanted to get Giannis, one of them would have to go. If the Nets don't get Giannis and they go in blowout mode, isn't that kind of seamless Cam Johnson for Kuminga? Isn't that kind of perfect?
Well, they don't even have to do that because they can just sign Kuminga outright. They don't even have to do a
I guess that's
trade.
the savior. I guess that's the saving grace.
They can technically do both, but I think it more depends on what they want to do with the draft picks, right? I'm just going to go to Tankathon real quick because you remember all those young guys they had that came into Sacramento and beat the Kings earlier this year. It was
I remember it well. Yes,
it was, Noah Clowney and
Cam Thomas must have played. He played in that game.
I'm sure he probably did, but they've got all those young guys now who they're kind of trying to figure out how they all fit together. Then you also throw in Brooklyn this year, as it stands right now, and this could change. They currently have pick 8, pick 19, pick 26, pick 27, pick 36 in this year's NBA draft. So they're going to get 5 rookies as it stands right now.
Crazy.
Potentially roll into that locker room, and they're going to want to make space for some of them. I understood when the Nets Daily Report came out that they're maybe trying to jump back into the top 10 by trading pick 19 and maybe Cam Johnson. I think it makes sense from their standpoint because their path to turn it around is going to be with just a gluttony of young players and kind of doing what Detroit is doing and kind of figure out which one of them are going to work and which one of them aren't going to work.
Yeah, I'm looking here. They're already super young, so I don't know what they're going to do with all these dudes. I mean, you get just random guys and you look up and they're all 20 besides Cam Johnson. Nick Claxton is 26. Cam Johnson's 29. Then after that, Noah Clowney is 20. Derek Whitehead is 20. Keon Johnson is 23. I don't know if any of these guys are going to be good, but Jalen Wilson, 24. Maxwell Lewis, 22. My boy, Drew Timme. I hope you cooked up a Drew Timme in one of those deals, Kyle. He's only 24. How many people thought Drew Timme was 27? I'm raising my hand.
I thought Drew Timme was 38 in college.
Drew Timme is 24 years old.
Drew Timme is my age. That is crazy.
God bless him. Tyrese Martin is 26. So a ton of young players. I don't know how much young talent they have. And they're going to get another crop of 5?
At least 5. Plus cap space to sign somebody in free agency like a Kuminga if they so choose. Yeah, it's interesting. It depends what they want to do, right? Because are they clearing out space for a new... If they trade Cam Johnson, are they doing it for a Kuminga, or are they trying to go completely young and say we're going to start 4 rookies and Claxton?
I don't know. There does come a point where, and yeah, I don't know what they're going to do with Claxton. There does come a point where, yeah, we essentially are tanking, but we want somebody that's somewhat established, and that's why Kuminga, to me, works for them, because you know that he's got some talent, right? And I know the Thunder have a ton of picks too, but this is different. The Thunder, they have picks almost for fun at this point. The Nets have to hit. So if you're choosing between we have to hit on these guys versus we can get Kuminga, who we know just needs more of a runway, I think that's a better gamble than just a bunch of draft picks, because you're not hitting on all of those picks. Yeah. Let's get to the other side. When we return, Kyle has cooked up how many trades today, Kyle?
2.
2 trades to acquire one Cam Johnson. Allen Stiles, Sacktown Sports.
Hey, it's Carmichael Dave here for American Energy, and oh my goodness, I'm born and raised here. I know it gets hot, but my goodness, we're already seeing 100-degree days. Listen to me. You do not want your system to conk out in the middle of June or July or August with one of those big 100-degree stretches. You want to make sure you're good all summer long. And my friends at American Energy Heating and Air can do that with a $24.50 tune-up right now. That's half price. And if you need a new system, $3,500 off, up to $3,500 off in rebates for qualified systems. They've been around since 1981, serving the greater Sacramento area. A+ with the Better Business Bureau. Call them right now, 916-520-9990. That's 916-520-9990. Jingle Singers, take it away.
Call 916-520-9990 now.
Allen Stiles. Watch the show on youtube.com/SacktownSports1140.
or listen on the Sacktown Sports app.
How can the Kings acquire the trade target, the trade candidate of the day? Cam Johnson, 29-year-old, 18 points per game, but the brother has never played more than 66 games in his career. So that price tag is going to be fascinating. Let's get right on into it, Kyle. I said yes to both Kobe White deals yesterday because, look, 26 and under, I'm normally going to, especially if you've already proven you can do some things, I'm normally going to say yes versus the young talent that the Kings have, simply because I think that age range is kind of perfect because you can make everybody happy. That's why, and we're going to talk about Jonathan Kuminga here in about 15 minutes, but that's why the 22-year-olds, if you want to hold on to Domantas Sabonis, but 25, 26, you're coming into your own. And that's why I like that. Cam Johnson goes 29. He will turn 30 next March. And the injuries have been an issue, which is so funny, Kyle, because, and we're about to get to the trades that Kyle cooked up. But what would you consider Cam Johnson, right? Obviously, he's not the level of injury prone. There's Zion and there's Ben Simmons. Then there's Zion. And then you have guys like Cam Johnson that I'm missing 20 games, bruh. Like I'm gonna be there for about 50, maybe 60, but I'm missing a solid 20 a year. What is that?
The constantly on the injury report guy.
Yeah.
It's like we go into every game and it's just questionable, doubtful, questionable. Always got some nagging injury.
Something. Just something kind of and I'm not saying whether they can play or not, but it's just always banged up. Those are just, that's the category. Injury prone, and then there's banged up. He's just banged up.
I will say, in his defense this last year, I just pulled up his injury history. He had those ankle injuries around the trade deadline, which was, I think, what kept him out for... I know they were trying to trade for him in December, and then in January the talks tied down because he got hurt with the ankle. Mm-hmm. But there's also the Brooklyn Nets were tanking.
That's also
games
true.
In here. There's some rest days in here where the Nets were just tanking and kept him out.
All right, let's get to trade number 1.
All right, so let's take us all the way back to the trade deadline. Ooh, so. Back we're in the NBA trade deadline now. Remember how Cam Johnson was almost a King, and then he was almost a Warrior, and then he was almost a Laker. The reported deals at the time were the Kings were offering Kevin Huerter, Trey Lyles, a first-round pick, and a second. And the Brooklyn Nets wanted Devin Carter. Mm-hmm. And that was where the talks kind of died out, was the Kings weren't willing to include Devin Carter or an extra first-round pick. So that was kind of the end of the Cam Johnson conversation. So obviously we don't have Kevin Huerter or Trey Lyles anymore, but we can essentially offer that same deal, but put DeMar DeRozan in there instead. So the one I came up with is Cam Johnson for DeMar DeRozan and the Kings' first-round pick next year. Brooklyn can either buy out DeMar DeRozan or trade him to Miami, and then they get Wiggins, and then they can just figure out what to do with Wiggins after that. But it's essentially, from the Kings' standpoint, Cam Johnson for DeMar DeRozan and a first-round pick.
So DeMar, a first-round pick for Cam Johnson.
Yeah, and then Brooklyn can figure out what to do with DeMar after that. I said, they'd send him for the Wiggins and second-round pick package. Just collect an extra second-round pick. Who cares?
And why would the Nets, are they going to try to move Wiggins?
Well, I'm just saying from the Nets standpoint, they just get a extra first-round pick for Cam Johnson.
Mm-hmm. And you could probably convince somebody to want Wiggins at some point. He's still only he's been in the league for 2 decades. He's still only 27.
Yeah, but I think the underlying point is, even if they trade Cam Johnson, they're going to have to pay somebody $20 million.
Man, I feel bad for Andrew Wiggins in that situation. But I'm doing it though. I'm doing it.
DeRozan and a first round pick.
This is and again,
And again,
if you look at DeMar DeRozan, it depends, right? And we've gone back and forth with DeMar DeRozan's value. If you look at DeMar DeRozan as essentially a sunk cost, then adding on a first rounder for 2026 is whatever. If you look at DeMar DeRozan as, hey, this number 2 to Kevin Durant thing, it could be real, then maybe the first rounder is too much, but I don't know. The Nets not doing it without a first rounder. So yeah, there's a rock and a hard place.
The Kings would probably be overpaying in this scenario because what does Brooklyn want DeMar DeRozan or Andrew Wiggins for? Brooklyn's doing it more so for the draft compensation, which is a strategy. They can only keep so many players on the roster. So, maybe this, by trading for DeRozan and waiving him, it potentially opens up a roster spot while keeping you above the salary floor if you're Brooklyn. But I would imagine Brooklyn might just say, hey, DeRozan, you want to come in and mentor these young guys? Or Wiggins, you want to come in and mentor these young guys or do something like that? Maybe they bring back D'Angelo Russell in this situation, and D'Angelo Russell and Wiggins can finally play with each other for the first time, even though it feels like those two players have had the same career arcs.
Yeah, I would say that the Nets are essentially facilitating just a player in Andrew Wiggins that somebody could convince themselves to, hey, we're an Andrew Wiggins away, and we're still not that far removed from 2022. And I think that between the first rounder and the ability to probably move Andrew Wiggins at some point and then get more, it ain't going to be, maybe you just get some young talent.
Yeah, maybe
right?
maybe the way for them to get 2 first-round picks for Cam Johnson is to rehab DeRozan's image or rehab Wiggins' image and then flip them for an additional first-round pick later.
I would want Andrew Wiggins before DeMar DeRozan easy if I'm the Nets.
Well, yeah, but not necessarily for quality of player. It's more so the timeline.
Yes, it's just timeline. More people are going to see Wiggins at. I don't think he's 30 yet, and go from there. All right, Kyle. So I'm doing it. I don't want to give up the first rounder, but
what if I put a top 4 protection on it? So only if they win the lottery would they keep the pick.
I mean, like I said, I feel like you kind of have to do it. Here comes the value question. And clearly I've kind of talked myself out of being that high on Cam Johnson. And I might sound crazy here, but how much better is Cam Johnson than PJ Washington, right? Is it a first rounder better? I don't think so.
We were going to have to trade the first rounder for PJ Washington anyways, but you're also giving up DeRozan.
Yeah, you're giving up DeRozan.
Yeah, you're cashing out the DeRozan chip and a first rounder, which at least you have 2 years left on Cam Johnson's contract.
I think I just talked myself out of it.
You talked yourself into PJ Washington.
I talked myself into, I don't really know how good Cam Johnson actually is.
Okay, so before we get to the second deal, let me just lay out what the Kings would look like in this scenario. So you would have point guard playing 20 minutes, Zach LaVine, Cam Johnson, Keegan Murray, Domantas Sabonis, and then coming off your bench, Keon Ellis, Malik Monk, Devin Carter, potentially Jake Laravia, and Jonas Valanciunas.
Sounds like a 7-8 seed to me. That's what all these deals, man. This is why a month ago I just said, go get a big fish and stop wasting my time.
Well, now we're not. We've run out of big fish, so we're here back to Cam Johnsons.
We're back to the Cam Johnsons of the world. What's the second one?
All right, last deal is they capitulate on the Devin Carter demands and trade him to Brooklyn like Brooklyn wanted at the trade deadline. So it would be Devin Carter, Jonas Valanciunas for salary reasons, and a lottery-protected first-round pick next year in exchange for Cam Johnson and your pick of either Noah Clowney or Drew Timme.
Well, I'm taking Noah Clowney's 20.
So yeah, but how much do you like Drew Timme?
Well, I do like Drew Timme.
How much would you
add Drew Timme, and I'm doing it.
Would you actively give up a first-round pick if it meant pissing Dave off? Because he does not want Drew Timme on the Kings.
Oh, of course
Drew
I
Timme
would.
looks like him.
Of course I would. So the first-round pick is top 14 protected.
Yes. So if they trade Devin Carter for Cam Johnson and miss the playoffs, they still keep the pick.
Done.
Oh, so you weren't in on this at the trade deadline. At the trade deadline, you wanted to keep Devin Carter.
I did. Some of that was Kevin O'Connor. A lot of people saying he's a steal of the draft. I just think that, again, if we're having these conversations, do I want to do both? No. I would fight the Devin Carter and the top first, but it is top 14 protected. I'd fight it, but you are getting a 20-year-old Noah Clowney who we saw he can shoot and go to one center. We know that.
He's a power forward.
We know that. So, again, if we're going to continue to work around the fringes, unless you think Devin Carter is going to have you in tears in a couple years because you had that guy, which is a kind of a staple here in Sacramento, I do it. I know we're way over time. Speaking of Jake Laravia, he sat down with Michael Scotto of Hoops Hype, and you are not going to want to miss what he had to say about free agency and coming back to the Sacramento Kings. Allen Stiles, Sacktown Sports.
Wesley Financial Group is not a law firm.
Chuck McDowell here again. Over the years, I've seen way too many timeshare exit companies pop up, take folks' money, and disappear. I just saw an ad from an exit company started by a couple of bozos that used to work for me. My advice, don't hire bozos I fire. Want out of your timeshare? I'll send you our free timeshare exit info kit explaining your options for cancellation.
Call Wesley for your free kit. Call 800-995-2929. That's 800-995-2929.
This is the story of the one. As a lineman, he does whatever it takes to keep the power on in his community. And he wants a partner like Grainger who does the same. Grainger offers the professional-grade products he needs, from voltage detectors to harnesses to hard hats, plus fast, dependable delivery, so he can rise to every challenge. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
The Hagen Oaks Cutting Edge Putter Fitting Studio offers you more technology, more choices, and more service. Hagen Oaks wants to be your go-to total golf game fitter. With $30,000 worth of state-of-the-art technology ready for your fitting, Hagen Oaks will help you make your best putting stroke while finding the best putter design, shape, hosel, length, and loft for your game. Schedule your fitting at the Hagen Oaks Player Performance Studio by calling 916-808-2531. That's 808-2531 for more.
Whitey here for Napoleon Grills, reminding you that when buying a new grill, every detail matters. While supplies last, you'll receive a $149 gift with purchase on every new Napoleon Prestige stainless steel grill. The kit even includes a pizza lover starter kit and much more. And now up to $79 off Napoleon Rogue models. Napoleon grills are built different, built better, built to last, with a lifetime warranty and premium steel that boasts amazing quality. Visit Green Acres Nursery today for your best selection of Napoleon grills and accessories.
Hi, Sacramento. It's the No Surprise Guys at Bell Brothers Plumbing and Air Conditioning. Is your AC on the fritz? Call Bell Brothers. Looking to replace your old unit with a 0% financing and no payments for 12 months on approved credit? Call Bell Brothers. We're fast, reliable, and respect your time by showing up when we say we will. The price we quote is the price you pay. We are the No Surprise Guys. Call today to get a free estimate on a new HVAC system, or simply schedule your $87 AC Precision tune-up to keep your system running smoothly. With more technicians, more trucks, and more experience, we get the job done right the first time. No surprises. Our technicians are all background checked, drug tested, and will leave the work area cleaner than they found it. Don't wait. Call Bell Brothers today or book online at nosurpriseguys.com. That's nosurpriseguys.com.
Golf to Go is brought to you by the Hagen Oaks Golf Super Shop. Here's Frank LaRosa.
According to Bogey Jones in the Daily Divot, golf is the best sport ever, and they provide a few reasons why. Some include no two courses are the same, so you'll never get bored. Some are wicked long, others have super thick rough, and others have fast greens. Enjoy the variety. You can make the game competitive with anyone. With other sports, bigger, stronger, younger opponents may have an edge. In golf, different tees and a formal handicap system makes it competitive, even if you're a 30 handicap. Golf can't be conquered. One day you can't miss a shot, the next day you want to throw all your clubs into the lake. The unpredictability is fascinating, and age is just a number. You can play when you're 70 years old. In fact, some don't take up the game until later in life, but don't wait that long. And you'll meet amazing people, celebrities, athletes, successful CEOs. You never know who you'll meet on a golf course. And oh yeah, it's a game. So have some fun. That's your Golf to Go. I'm Frank LaRosa.
Get ready for a night out with Jordan Davis. It's Country in the Park 2, Saturday, September 13th at Cal Expo. Along with the special guests Mitchell Tenpenny, Low Cash, Vincent Mason, and Abriana. Make it a family day out with food trucks, games, dancing, and more. Saturday, September 13th at Cal Expo with Michelob Ultra. Tickets are available now at CITPFest.com.
Allen Stiles
You can join the show by texting 916-339-1140.
on Sacktown Sports.
The cult following that Jake Laravia has created has been outstanding. But should we get too attached too quickly? Or is he going to take off just like so many others? Jake Laravia and the complicated situation that the Kings are in based on how they acquired him and everything left over from the Grizzlies, declining that option and how they are kind of limited in what they're able to pay him. He sat down with Michael Scotto of Hoops Hype, and Jake Laravia kind of making the runs here. Hey, you know what? Good for Jake Laravia, his PR team, his agent. Get on out there, man.
It's funny because normally, you have negotiations and you don't want to let it out. When you're like a middle of the pack NBA player,
What's up, y'all? Yeah.
Who cares?
Where y'all at?
I'll put my free agency business out there. Who cares?
So it's a great article on hoopshype.com. I'm going to obviously highlight when they start talking about the Kings. And there's a question about, he loves playing for Coach Doug Christie. How would you describe playing in Sacramento for Doug Christie? Jake said it was great. He's a fiery coach. He's played in the league before and played for Sacramento. He likes the type of player and archetype that I am. He likes the grit, the toughness, the hustle, and the energy. He goes on to say a lot more about that. The next question is, do you think Doug Christie returning to Sacramento will affect your free agency? And Jake says, yeah, for sure. I loved him being the interim coach. I even told him in the interview that if you're not hired, odds are I'm probably not going to re-sign in Sacramento. But if you are, there would be more of a chance for me to go back to Sacramento. When I found out the news, I congratulated him. I'd love to play for Doug Christie. And as you can tell, I'm reading this live as it just came out not too long ago. So he is riding for Doug Christie, Jake Laravia. And we talked to Keith Smith about this, and hey, you could do a 2-year deal with Jake, and what was it, Kyle? 2 years, 10 mil,
10.6,
and he can opt out of that second year, and then you can really cash him out, right? So that's an opportunity. He gets asked after he was described playing for Sacramento, Doug Christie, and will it impact his free agency? He said, the Kings have a lot of talent, but didn't make the playoffs. Why do you think that was the case? Jake says, it's not an excuse at all for them, but it was a weird season for them in general with the coaching change, trading De'Aaron Fox and Luke Laux left to be Florida State head coach. Things were happening within the organization that you don't typically see during an NBA season.
That's crazy.
They were definitely going through stuff like that. When I got there, Zach and Jonas were new. We were all trying to learn how to play together. Individually, there are not many more teams that probably had more talent than Levine, DeRozan, Sabonis, and Keegan Murray. A lot of talented individuals or individual players. It was more so, how are we going to be able to piece everyone together and play as a unit? I just don't think there was enough time for that. So feather in the cap of all the Allen, they just didn't have enough time together.
Not enough practice.
No point guard either. Okay, he gets asked, what do you see for this team looking ahead as constructed? There are a lot of winners on this team. There are a lot of guys that make sacrifices when they're playing, and a lot of that archetype I was talking about with me, where it's just both sides of the ball and gritty, tough defensive energy and intensity. We know with Keegan Murray and Keon Ellis, players like that. You have DeMontis, who's a high IQ center who can play on the wing and help facilitate to the point guard so they don't always have to do stuff. It's a very well-rounded team. And stuff may change in the offseason. I don't know. Whether they trade anyone or whatever happens with that, I think that this team has all the talent it needs to succeed. Next question. At 23, what are you looking for in unrestricted free agency? Jake Laravia. The biggest thing, like scratch the money part, I want what everyone else wants, which is being on a team that's really competing for a championship or a young up-and-coming team that's ready to win. I love to compete. It's one of the biggest reasons I enjoy playing basketball. You're competing against the highest level of talent when you're playing in a league. So being on a team that is competing for a championship and that needs a guy like me, a wing that plays both sides of the ball, I'm a defender who can shoot the three and can make plays. I do a little bit of everything. I'd love to see my role expand as I get more and more years in the league. And the last one, I'll skip over this one. He says, they ask, how do you think you can impact the team, whether it's Sacramento or somewhere else? We kind of know what Jake's going to say there. So I want to get to the good stuff right here. The last question, are you open to going anywhere else in free agency? Jake Laravia. Yeah, options are definitely open. It's not like I have my mind set on one place. I've seen plenty of cases where it's hard to turn down money. At the end of the day, it's a business. I'm not a businessman. I'm a business man. A butter situation for Jake Laravia.
That means if I get more than 5.1 million, we got to take it.
Right. So that 10 mil, that's for 2 years. So It's 2 years, 10. He's opting out after that first year, and then he would be doing that because he wants to stay in Sacramento. And hey, Jake, just sign this, opt out, and then we'll cash you out once we're done with the restrictions from Memphis. It's funny. I was feeling good about Jake staying in Sacramento until the very end, but ultimately, I haven't seen any rumors with Jake as far as the other teams interested. I haven't seen him thrown in a bunch of other jerseys or things like that, which I believe is a good thing.
Oh, could you imagine if someone was making Jake Laravia jersey swaps?
You could probably find them somewhere on the internet. But yeah, I felt good about Jake staying until the end, but I also feel good about it because I don't know how much more money he's going to get out there. Like Michael Scotto choosing to talk to Jake Laravia is probably the most Jake Laravia thing ever, right? Michael Scotto is huge in the basketball business and, obviously a writer for Hoops Hype, and he's going down the list, and where Jake Laravia falls on his list as far as who are the free agents I want to talk to is probably not at the top, probably not at the bottom. It might be, okay, so-and-so's, I'm just being honest here. So-and-so's busy this week. So-and-so hasn't gotten back to me yet. Let's see if Jake Laravia's interested. And it's a bigger deal for, I believe, Jake Laravia to get this call to do Hoops Hype than for Michael Scotto, which the reason I bring that up is because it's kind of indicative of who Jake Laravia is as a player right now and what I believe his market will be, which is I'm confident that the Kings will have a shout, but it only takes one team, and it's a low price tag to price them out.
Yeah, you don't even have to make a commitment larger than your seventh highest paid player on the team,
right?
If you're any other team. So if you think Jake Laravia is worth being your seventh highest paid player, then you could totally outbid the Kings. It's not going to take a lot.
That goes back to and we've had conversations about Jake Laravia possibly starting, right? And so that goes back to, hey, Jake, we want you to be here. We see you as a big player with us. And unfortunately, where the Kings are at, again, could go back to the Nets where You get all the playing time in the world on the Nets if you're Jake Laravia. He's playing, I'm just looking here, Kyle, for his career. He averages 18 minutes played per game, right? If they go out and get the Kings, go out and get John Collins or PJ Washington, anybody like that, a wing, even if it's a 3 or a 4, I don't see if you're trying to sell Jake on, we can't pay you this money. We're gonna play you more than the money we're paying you, which is a funny thought process. But then next season, after you opt out, we'll cash you out and you're going to be getting 25, 30 plus minutes. I don't even think they can sell him with that, because unless they don't do anything and the conversation is investing in Jake Laravia, they move DeMar DeRozan, they bring in Cam Johnson or whoever, he's not getting 25 minutes a game.
Or you could make it from his camp like, well, yeah, I could maybe get 25 or 30 minutes here, but Charlotte's already promising me 20 and $9 million a year.
Right, 20 and $4 million more a year.
Yeah, why do I need to prove it if Charlotte's already offering me a 1 year, $10 million contract to play 25 minutes as their backup 5 or whatever, or I'm sorry, their backup 3.
Great stuff from Michael Scotto. Got to try to get him on the show. And great stuff from Jake Laravia. When we return, okay, this was a trade created by a Warriors account. I responded, and people are losing it. We'll tell you who it is and where it is when we return. Allen Stiles, Sacktown Sports.
Big news. Newsmax just went public on the New York Stock Exchange, and millions like you are joining our news revolution. Newsmax is now the 4th highest rated news channel, just behind CNN. Reuters says we're one of the top news brands in America. 40 million Americans go to Newsmax for shows with Rob Schmidt, Greta Van Susteren, Rob Finnerty, and more. So download our free Newsmax app on your smartphone or TV and start watching. President Trump says Newsmax is truly terrific. Get the free Newsmax app and check out Newsmax shares on the stock exchange. Go to newsmaxinvest.com. That's newsmaxinvest.com. This is not an offer to buy or sell securities, nor shall there be any sale of securities in any jurisdiction in which such an offer would be unlawful.
Progressive knows when you own a boat or RV, it's like you're automatically on vacation, even if you're actually a marriage counselor in the middle of couples therapy. But in your mind, you're camping in Acadia, puttering around Frenchman Bay. Your boat and RV are both protected. Your lobster drenched in butter and... Uh-oh. Did your clients just notice you weren't listening? Quick, do the thing where you just repeat back exactly what they said, but as a question. They bought it. Now back to Maine, earning an automatic discount bundling your boat or RV with your home or auto. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company affiliates and other insurers. Not available in all states or situations.
This is the story of the one. As a lineman, he does whatever it takes to keep the power on in his community. And he wants a partner like Grainger who does the same. Grainger offers the professional-grade products he needs, from voltage detectors to harnesses to hard hats, plus fast, dependable delivery, so he can rise to every challenge. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
An Australian hiker travels to the American West to walk a wilderness trail.
Wasn't afraid to be out on his own.
But Eric Robinson vanished in the high Uinta Mountains.
I remember thinking, Eric, what were you thinking, mate?
I'm Dave Cawley. Join me on my podcast, Uinta Triangle, where I travel the world to answer the question, what happened to Eric Robinson? Follow Uinta Triangle. That's UINTA Triangle on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen.
Trey Songz, live. All the hits, all in one night. Trey Songz. Friday, June 20th, the venue at Thunder Valley. With special guest, Jeremiah. For tickets, visit ThunderValleyResort.com and see the show. Trey Songz, Friday, June 20th, the venue at Thunder Valley.
Stay up to date on Sacramento sports. Join the Sacktown Sports 1140 newsletter. Visit SacktownSports.com.
This is the story of the one.
As a safety manager at a manufacturing plant, he does everything he can to keep...
Live and local.
It's Allen Stiles
on Sacktown Sports.
GSW Ball Report came out with this and had a lot of people talking. Okay? This is the trade. The Kings receive Jonathan Kuminga and a 2026 first-round pick, top 20 protected. The Warriors receive Keegan Murray and a 2027 second-round pick. The Kings receive Jonathan Kuminga and a 2026 first-round pick, top 20 protected. The Warriors receive Keegan Murray and a 2027 second-round pick. Now, my answer to this has been what I have continued to say, that if the Warriors or if the Kings are going to trade for Jonathan Kuminga, Domantas Sabonis will probably ask out. Because why would Domantas Sabonis want to play with a raw 22-year-old? That's not to say I don't want Jonathan Kuminga on the Kings, but I want Jonathan Kuminga on a different version of the Kings. Not when you would be getting rid of... Now, yes, you're getting a first-rounder back, but you're getting rid of your youngest player that is a starter and gets significant minutes, bringing in somebody younger, and that 22-year-old doesn't match with the almost 30-year-olds that you have. I do like the first-round pick, by the way, even though it's top 20 protected, but I can't do this deal, Kyle. I can't do this deal.
What is the thing you're holding up on? That it would lead to a full-scale teardown, or the specifics of Kuminga for Keegan?
I don't know that it would. Both. I don't know that it would lead to a full-scale teardown. That's actually a really interesting way to look at it. If you traded for Kuminga, knowing that it would tick Sabonis off, you would be basically saying, yeah, Sabonis might not know it yet, but we're kind of starting the teardown. And we would know it once you made that deal, right? Okay, so you're bringing in a raw 22-year-old. So I think you know that I know that you know I wouldn't like this. So let's start the conversation.
So in this scenario, would they still be trading DeRozan for a 4? Like make it John
I don't know.
But this move by itself, now you have, depending on how you feel.
Shooting.
Depending on how you feel about Kuminga, you now have 5 shooting guards.
No, he's not a shooting guard, but none of them get, you lose. My biggest thing is the spacing would be atrocious.
Yeah.
Spacing would be atrocious. Jonathan Kuminga is way too raw to pair alongside DeMar DeRozan. He couldn't play with Jimmy Butler. So now you're going to play him alongside DeMar DeRozan. That doesn't make any sense. None of this makes sense unless this is the first start of the teardown. Essentially, you're saying Keegan is 24, 25. We don't think Keegan is going to be that dude. We can get a 22-year-old along with the protected first rounder, and that kind of jump starts everything. Zach LaVine, you can say if you want, or you can opt out of your $50 million. DeMar DeRozan, we'll see ya. Domantas, you can play with Kuminga. We can all get through this year, right? And then after that, we can start to shop you as well.
Yeah, you're essentially making the point Kuminga has a higher ceiling than Keegan, but you would have one less year of team control because obviously Kuminga was the draft class before Keegan.
Well, but you would be signing him to that extension.
Right, but as opposed to signing Keegan to a long-term extension. Like their extensions would both probably be 4 years.
Right.
You're just making the case that 4 years of Kuminga to figure out what he is more valuable than 5 years of Keegan to figure out what he is, because in theory, Kuminga has a higher ceiling, which I would argue there's some debate about that. Which of those two players has a higher ceiling? I've never seen Kuminga score 47 in an NBA game.
You're not wrong. Look, I said I wouldn't do the deal. I'm just saying.
But the biggest reason to do the deal is Kuminga having a higher ceiling as a two-way player. Honestly,
if I were going to do business, the problem is if I were to do business with the Warriors, it would not be for Keegan, right? It would be for Domantas Sabonis, Zach LaVine, and DeMar. And they don't have the horses to make any of those deals. That's why I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do a deal with the Warriors, because I would actually be trying to help them in the short term, because I'm saying we ain't got it right now. If you guys are willing to give us a Godfather offer to get Domantas Sabonis or Zach LaVine, who you were interested in, or DeMar DeRozan because you missed out on KD, cool. But a deal like this, I can't give up the little young talent that I have. That's not how I would kickstart the rebuild. I'm kickstarting the rebuild by getting rid of an older player.
I'm kickstarting the rebuild by trading an older player for draft picks.
Right. That's exactly right, which the Warriors don't have, really.
Well, not a lot, at least.
Yeah, not enough for any of the guys I just said besides Zach LaVine, and they can't take Zach LaVine because he makes too much money. So all roads lead back to, and this. Oh, you were out that day when it was me and Anthony, or Anthony and I, in case my mother's listening, and essentially I said, am I losing it, or is there a world where the Warriors make a move for DeMar and DeMar comes off the bench? And I think that deal might have been Kuminga and something for DeMar.
You didn't want Jimmy Butler and DeMar on the same team.
I didn't, but I said if there was a team that could make it work, it would be the Warriors.
You know what's kind of funny? This kind of clicked in my head, because you've got Jimmy aging out into his 30s at $50 million a year. You've got Kuminga and Keegan, which we're kind of agreeing are kind of the same career arc. You've got Moses Moody versus, call it Malik Monk. Are the Warriors just the Kings? They have the same draft pick situation. Are the Warriors just the Kings, but with Steph Curry right now? Are they basically like the same career arc?
Because Jimmy's better than DeRozan, but you're paying him $50 million.
No, I'm saying Jimmy is LaVine in this situation.
Yeah, so DeRozan is Draymond.
DeRozan doesn't really quite. I'm saying Draymond and Sabonis are kind of value-wise similar. I'm not saying Draymond's as good as Sabonis. I'm saying value to their organization-wise.
It's not far off.
They're just the Kings, but with Stephen Curry at 38 years old. That's what they've surrounded. The situation that I'd say 40% of Kings fans do not want is the situation the Warriors have just with Stephen Curry.
Yeah. I wouldn't do this deal specifically because I would want to see Kuminga with Keegan. That's what I would. If I'm bringing in a slasher, right, he can focus on one thing because Keegan brings the shooting. That's what I would want to see. I wouldn't want to move Keegan for Kuminga. I'd want to see both of them doing their thing together.
I don't feel like it fixes anyone's problem either.
No, it doesn't. Well, basically it's a younger Cam. It's basically their Cam Johnson and Keegan, but you're getting younger. Which is why he costs more. That's what I would say.
Sure, I guess you could say that. It's just you're getting a wing, and a wing will, I guess, do something Jonathan Kuminga isn't. You're just saying they need defense in this situation. Because if let's just put him on there for the time being. What the Warriors would then be running out: Steph, Pajemski, Jimmy, Keegan, and Draymond.
Sure. I think that's better than what they just had. They were starting Moses Moody.
It's more balanced. I just don't think it fixes their problem, because now you've just sacrificed the offense. And maybe you're saying
how did you sacrifice the offense?
Well, so if you get rid of, I guess, is Buddy Hield still on the team in this situation? Because they were starting Buddy down the stretch.
Hell yeah, he is.
So I guess if Buddy's on the team, that I guess makes it a little bit more balanced.
I think the Warriors do this deal for sure. They get a smidge younger for whatever they're going to be when Steph is gone, and it's a Pajemski and Keegan-led team. I don't know why the Kings would do this deal unless they're prepared to have that conversation with Sabonis and say, yeah, brother, you can kind of see the writing on the wall. But in a perfect world, I would love to see Kuminga play alongside Keegan Murray. That's what I would say. But I don't think they'll do any business together. If they do, it better not be for Keegan. But I would like Kuminga on the team, but not for the only other young guy that the Kings are currently playing. When we return, the roundtable kicks off with Chris Watkins, Brandon Nunez, and Frankie Cardicelli. We are back in full effect for the roundtable. It's been a long time. I shouldn't have left you. Allen Stiles, Sacktown Sports.
This is the story of the one. As a safety manager at a manufacturing plant, he does everything he can to keep his coworkers safe. From finding ways to reduce risks to keeping safety supplies in stock. And for that, he relies on Grainger. Grainger offers a broad range of quality products and next-day delivery, so he can always play it safe. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
The Giant Summer Sale is here. Get giant savings on our giant selection only at Folsom Lake Honda, your one-stop Honda shop.
Looking to own or lease? Save during the Giant Summer Sale and drive a brand new Accord or Civic. Visit us today at FolsomLakeHonda.com, your one-stop Honda shop.
As a family-owned and operated dealership since 2009, customer service is our #1 priority. Our customers love doing business with us, and you will too.
Folsom Lake Honda. Go to FolsomLakeHonda.com.
Your one-stop Honda shop. Only one radio program captures the excitement of hunting and fishing as it happens. The award-winning California Sportsman with Sep Hendrickson. Only California Sportsman takes you where the action is, live on the water, live in the blind, and live with the top pros and experts in outdoor sports. California Sportsman with Fishing Hall of Famer Sep Hendrickson is your premier destination for all things outdoors. Sep's Saturday Morning Outdoors. Ultimate Bass and California Sportsman, 5 a.m. to 8 a.m. Saturdays on Sacktown Sports 1140.
I'm Ken Korak with your Green and Gold Report, brought to you by Comcast Business, powering possibilities. Well, looking for something positive in the midst of a dismal stretch for the A's, center fielder Denzel Clark, finishing his second weekend in the big leagues and playing in his hometown of Toronto, went 4 for 9 with a home run in the last 3 games of the series and also made a sensational Spider-Man leaping catch over the wall in center field, robbing Alejandro Kirk of a home run. Comcast Business helps turn today's small businesses into engines of modern business. It's how restaurants become reliably up and running neighborhood favorites. It's how retailers become seamlessly restocking, cyber-securing must-visit shops. And it's how healthcare offices become data-managing caregivers that we all depend on. With reliable connectivity, enhanced cybersecurity, advanced fiber solutions, and Wi-Fi backup, Comcast Business is powering the engine of modern business.
KHD1 Sacramento, KYMX HD3 Sacramento.
From the Power Business Technology Toshiba Studios, Sacktown Sports 1140. Your home for Kings talk and so much more.
Live and vocal.
Allen Stiles on Sacktown Sports.
Yeehaw! The roundtable is fully loaded and back with you for the next hour. Chris Watkins, Brandon Nunez, and Frankie Cardicelli. Frankie.
We bring the boom!
That's right.
Wait, is this first day back?
On the roundtable.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wow.
First day back. Frankie, how you been?
The smooth sounds of Kid Rock welcoming me back, and Allen's Donuts downstairs that were all the same. How'd that happen, man?
What do you mean? Oh, no. Well, actually, I went
just plain glaze.
No, not at all. And it's funny.
There was one old fashioned.
It was kind of a social experiment because when I went down and checked it out at about 10:30, because I got a dozen, all 6 glaze were still there. And all 6 of the other donuts were gone. So now I thought I was playing it safe because everybody likes glaze. Apparently, everybody doesn't like glaze because that was all that was left. I got different donuts.
I'm giving you a hard time. It was good. Thank you.
I did not get. Yeah, that's the #1 donut. CBS, look it up. CBS News, Natomas Donuts, #1.
I did get bad donuts. It was a social experiment, guys. Okay, yeah,
that's right.
It was. Couldn't be a nice gesture. It is.
No, yeah, it was more than a nice gesture. It was more.
And I like the note. The note was a real nice touch.
The ones he gave us in here, Verlad and I both started laughing as soon as we saw the
What do you guys want? Some sprinkles?
Just not 4 glazed,
Probably.
1 old fashioned, and 1
sprinkles.
maple.
There was a chocolate in there
Is
somewhere.
there a maple bar in there?
There was 1 maple bar, 1 maple bar,
and then
4
Dave
glazed.
says the maple's not good.
Okay, that's very stupid.
I think the maple bar is the
So
donut.
you can't make everybody happy.
What
This is
is
the
his-
last time I bring damn donuts.
What is his
I'm
donut of choice? Like a bear claw? Like no.
No, he was housing. What does Dave look like to you? He was housing the old fashioned. He's an old fashioned. You look at Dave's face. That's an old fashioned donut face.
We're not slandering maple bars on.
I'm
on
just
these
saying.
airwaves.
Next time, bring 5 maple bars.
That's right.
I agree. Make
And
the
then
whole
somebody say, "Where's the sprinkles at?"
make the whole thing maple bars.
Where is the sprinkles at, guys? Let's sprinkle in some Kings here
There you go.
on
Wow.
the round table.
Clean.
Senor Segway strikes again.
Thank you.
What is that? Is that a 3 or a 4?
Oh, that's a 4-star
Thank
transition
you.
right there.
I Senor Segway strikes again. Thank you, guys. We were having this conversation, and there's so many rumors going on right now, not just with the Kings, with everybody. And there was that report as far as whether or not the Kings would move on from some of their guys. Mike Scotto is going crazy right now. He just sat down with Jake Laravia, and he says this, and initially when I read it, I think we already knew this, right? Looking ahead to the offseason, rival NBA executives are monitoring the trio of Domantas Sabonis, Zach LaVine, and DeMar DeRozan with the belief that Sacramento will explore the possibility of trading at least one of those players either this offseason or before the trade deadline in February. So, like I said, I quote tweeted it. I said, this is what we already knew. DeMar DeRozan, goodbye. And Frankie, somebody responded to me and said, I mean, I think you could get a better haul for Domantas Sabonis, which I don't disagree with. But then I started thinking, is there any world where the Bulls are still on the Kings and DeMar DeRozan and Zach LaVine and Domantas Sabonis is gone?
I don't see it happening. Again, like I think that for a Domas deal to happen, it would. I don't know if people are expecting a return though in that deal. I mean, what kind of a return would it look like even if that were to take place?
Right.
And I think our good buddy Matt George was, theorizing that Lonzo Ball is going to become available this offseason. Maybe the Kings could try to get Lonzo Ball. And well, I think Brendan, maybe, I don't know if it's Brendan or Chris, one of you, I think, or both of you maybe have been enticed by the opportunity to bring in Lonzo Ball to Sacramento. But I don't know if making the Kings officially, if they weren't Bulls West already, you're officially Bulls West, having Lonzo Ball run point with DeMar DeRozan.
Just go get Vucevic while you're at it. Kobe White.
Might as well. Which
Yeah.
I think that's the trade candidate that Allen was highlighting yesterday. But no, I don't see Domas being, in my opinion, truly a trade candidate right now. I mean, I think that out of that 3, the quote unquote Sacramento Big 3, which by the way, we need to be a little light on the Big 3 label.
I didn't read that part. That was from NBA Central.
Okay,
I did not read that.
I know you didn't read
on
it,
purpose.
but I saw it. It's been in my head all morning. That
Yeah.
the Big 3. I think that it's kind of just it's DeRozan. I think DeRozan is the player that's going to get moved, and his contract is the smallest, the least amount of money guaranteed. He's partially guaranteed next year. It makes the most sense.
Mm-hmm.
I just feel like Domas is someone right now that pretty firmly planted in Sacramento, unless something crazy happens.
I tend to agree. I think DeMar is probably still the easiest to move. Maybe Domas has the best value. All 3 of the guys probably are fairly situational. There's going to be some teams around the league that are interested and others that maybe just the play style turns them away a little bit. But I feel like DeMar is getting a little bit underrated almost in this whole process. He's on a fine deal, around $25 million for what he does. I think is around market value. He's a guy that matters a lot in the postseason. Like New York had some spacing issues, so it doesn't make the most sense, but you could see that they needed a big time scorer. And DeMar is still a guy that's a big time scorer that can get you buckets. I think there's value on a postseason team, like a team like Denver. Probably really would have benefited from having DeMar DeRozan, So I think that there's places that make sense for him. With Domas, I feel like I wouldn't be surprised if we would have already heard even more rumors about like, hey, Domas isn't so sure about where this is going, like we were hearing as the season was sort of coming to a close. The fact that those haven't come back up makes me think that we could be in the clear of all that. I will say I have a slight concern because a lot of it was about the play style of the team from everything Sam Amick was saying and just kind of everything gathered that how does he feel when the trade deadline comes around, and could that throw a wrench in the season? So I think that more likely than not, Domas probably remains on the team and you look in the direction of DeMar, but I also think Scott Perry should be having phone calls about everybody.
Chris?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that it's just going to be tough for Domas to be the one to see him being the one move simply because of his contract. I mean, he has the most years remaining of those three guys. Like Brendan said, DeMar's on the most palatable deal, I think, between him and Levine, between the two that kind of are, I guess you could say, near expiring. I think that there's definitely a chance. I'm not going to say there's no chance in the world that, the Kings, I think if the right deal comes, I don't think they're going to say, hey, we have an order of operations in which we really want to get this done. I think they just kind of know that at the end of this rainbow, they know what it needs to look like. And I think ultimately the order of operations really doesn't matter as long as you kind of get to your end result in an efficient manner. And I hope that it is kind of like what you guys pointed out, like by the All-Star break, that those talks kind of start to heat up. I just think it's a little tough unless somebody specifically, sees Domantas Sabonis as their missing piece. I just don't know how loud the market's going to be until it really needs to be.
And let's stay with you, Chris, because you've been on this and we kind of go back and forth. We have our trade candidates and we understand that this team would be better if they had a wing or somebody that made more sense than DeMar DeRozan. But you're working around the fringes. And at this point, it kind of just is what it is as far as who the Kings are. Are you fully on the rebuild train? I mean, they can go out. We always joke about John Collins, Draper's guy, or PJ Washington. Yeah, okay, fine. DeRozan's gone. Schroeder and PJ. Let's rock and roll. Are we just, and we could have the big swing conversation too, but is it just it's time? Is there anything that could bring you back in if you took a big swing on the Trae Young, or is it just I've seen enough?
It's kind of a complicated answer because I think that there's much like we always say, there's levels to it. Like I think I could be bought into, okay, I at this current moment, I don't think that there's any more enjoyment left to really extract.
Right.
Maybe if you bring in a Trae Young, a Zion, like there is some sort of youthful energy or some sort of new promise that they could bring and kind of reinvigorate the timeline a little bit. But realistically, like, no, I mean, at the end of the day, we're supposed to be talking about, these trades help you get to where playing now, like you want to be making these moves to get to the finals. And ultimately I feel like they need to go back to the drawing board. If that's the thing at the end of the rainbow, I feel like this current squad, you're kind of just not going to be able to extract enough value out of in order to get to that sort of level. Now, again, you can kind of rejigger things and maybe you can, for the next 6 years end up as a, first or second round playoff exit. But again, it just kind of matters on what exactly their goal is. And we still don't have an answer because the most we got out of Scott Perry was the sustained success. Right. And that's incredibly vague.
Yeah. I was listening or kind of watching back Scott Perry's intro presser yesterday, and he is very personable. He really is. And he cracks me up. And I really hope he has that autonomy to be able to do what he wants to do. So Frankie, obviously you were out on, are you done with paternity leave or is this part 1.5? I don't know how this
I have 2 more weeks left.
Okay.
But I'm going to use them when Allie when the wife goes back to work. In August, I'll use them then. But
part 2.7. I mean, I don't know what's going on.
Hey man, you're a dad. You know how it goes.
I know. I hear you. And the reason I bring it up is because when Frank Jr. is playing Little League or whatever the case may be, you got your all-stars and you got your captains, right? And Frankie, you're going to be coaching, and baby Frank is going to be the best on the team, and he kind of holds the flag for the team, right? Every team throughout every level, you got your guy, right? In Little League, all right, it's our guy versus their guy, right? The best player. In mine, back in the day, his name was Shane Spalding. This kid threw cheddar, and he was the guy. Does anybody have a better guy than Shane Spalding? I look at the playoffs and I look at the finals, right? And every team in there has their guy.
They're Shane
Spalding. If there was a parade, a Little League parade, that's the kid that holds the flag. Baby Frank holds the flag. I look at the Kings. Who the hell is holding the flag? And if we're not gonna, like Chris said, the question of rebuild or whatever, if you don't have a guy to say, no, this is who we're bringing to the table as our best player. and he's going to go toe-to-toe with whoever. Brunson versus Halliburton, Jokic versus Shea. If the Kings don't have a guy, isn't this all a waste of time?
Quick shout out to our Shane Spalding was Ryan Johnson, the guy who hit just tanks.
Dude.
There was a trailer park behind our Little League field, and he just would hit. You'd hear him hitting trailers all.
Everyone has a Shane Spalding.
Everyone does. It's
the Kings don't.
They don't. I mean, they really don't. And I hate to go back there and keep classic Kings radio station going back and digging up the De'Aaron Fox trade, but that was their guy.
Mm-hmm.
That was their guy you give the ball to, and you can see De'Aaron Fox scoring in a variety of ways. There were games where he created damage on the three-point shot from the perimeter. There was times where he attacked the basket. He could draw fouls, go to the free throw line. He rarely disappeared late in games. I think that he was criticized most for disappearing early in games. That was a huge sticking point with De'Aaron Fox was, where is he in the first through third quarters? Like, this is kind of tired at the end of games. I mean, he shows up when things are at their peak. And now we have someone on the Kings roster in DeMar DeRozan, who, again, I don't want to minimize the fact that he had a 20-point year. He was ranked among league leaders in clutch scoring. He was a guy the Kings could run through in end-of-game situations.
Mm-hmm.
But what you're describing here is almost like from a star power, like you do have it tonight. And again, another player the Kings used to have was Tyrese Halliburton, who was criticized for not showing up in the playoffs. Now he's done just that. He's had big shot after big shot. The numbers are there. I think he had a 30-point triple-double with no turnovers last week to help lead them to the finals. So do the Kings have one? I mean, Zach LaVine at his best, we've seen what he can do. But one of the biggest sticking points with him is all of his big games come against teams that are under 500.
Yeah.
And the games that the Kings really need him to show up and down the final stretch, he didn't. And I think that player's in there and someone who can give you 30-plus points a night. But I don't know if we can expect that from Zach LaVine in the 25-26 season. I don't know if you can expect Zach LaVine to be a 27, 28-point scorer. So the answer, the Kings do not have a Shane Spalding. They don't have a Ryan Johnson.
No.
They don't have anyone that can go out there and hit home runs into the trailer park and everyone's losing their minds eating big league chew. That's not on the Kings roster right now. And can they find it this summer? Call it pessimistic. I don't know. I don't think the Kings are going to bring in someone that's going to change kind of that narrative.
Go ahead.
If I'm trying to be optimistic, Zach LaVine put up 22 a game last year on pretty much 50, 40, 90.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he had one of the best years of his career. He was pretty healthy most of the season. And that was obviously a big knock that I think stopped some of the gradual growth that you see throughout a player's career. And maybe there's more there. This is a guy they traded Fox for. They thought he had that level of talent, whether they be, management that isn't here anymore or ownership that still is, whoever it may be. It wasn't Scott Perry's decision. Right. So take that for whatever that may be worth. But I think it's supposed to be Zach, I guess. I think the difference in De'Aaron is more of the, I don't even know if ISO scoring is fair because Zach can do that. But I guess, generating paint touches and then making plays from there. And funnily enough, obviously you say ISO scoring, it's like, well, they have DeMar DeRozan, but he doesn't quite fit into their stylistic, I think, identity that they want to establish with this team, which is still the 1A thing that you need to figure out. And if you're playing as fast as you were a couple years ago with the Beam Team year, like maybe Zach can be at number one, but I don't think that's good enough. There's a world though. I mean, I feel like the fact that he put up 22 on almost 50, 40, 90 last year is pretty ridiculous. And I get why it doesn't get talked about that much, but those are wild numbers.
Let's look at the future. Should the Kings move into the first round? The guys have any updates on the workouts that have been happening in Sacramento? Allen Stiles, Sac Town Sports.
Progressive knows when you're in your RV, you're already on vacation. That's when you become Vacation You, who just camped where there's absolutely no shade. Even though regular you burns easily. In fact, Vacation You burns too, but is too stubborn to admit it, which is why regular you gets in trouble at the dermatologist, because Vacation You doesn't do doctors. So bundle your RV with your home or auto policy and earn an automatic discount from Progressive. And spend the savings on the both of you. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company affiliates and other insurers. Not available in all states or situations.
Oh, I gotta get business cards printed for my entire staff, but where do I even?
That was easy.
Oh, okay, Staples. But can I have bigger stuff printed too, like huge signs and banners?
That was easy.
Nice. And what if I had to ship a package?
That was easy.
Have my passport photo taken?
That was easy.
Coffee and snacks?
That was easy.
What about the latest laptops?
That was
Earbuds
easy.
and headphones?
That was
Office
easy.
chairs?
That was easy.
I think I also need to get some Staples.
Seriously?
I had to ask.
For everything your business needs to get the job done.
Staples. That was easy.
Allen Stiles. Watch the show on youtube.com/Sacktown Sports 1140.
Or listen on the Sacktown Sports app.
Quick updates here, some within the show, some outside of the show. Frankie is reporting Aaron Rodgers is finally done.
One Chico native, not Chico native, but went to school in Chico.
Aaron Rodgers to the Steelers.
Yeah, that's Tom Pelissero, NFL, not from me.
Okay, so Aaron Rodgers to the Steelers. We'll get to that later in the show, but as well as what we will get to, Michael Scotto got Kyle Ledbetter working real hard behind the glass for us. Michael Scotto of Hoops Hype, who, again, we've referenced him a couple times on this show. He sat down with Jake Laravia. He also is the one that talked about one of the top players from the Kings, whether it be Domantas Sabonis, Zach LaVine, or DeMar DeRozan, will probably be moved. Michael Scotto is going to join us at 1 o'clock. So that's big. Thanks to Kyle for getting that together. So that's coming up at 1 o'clock as we continue on here, guys. We were talking a little bit during the break about the workouts, and I don't want to sit here and spend a ton of time on anybody other than Grant Nelson, because if the Kings got him, he'd be the best found money that we've seen since Keon Ellis. I don't think he'll last to the second round. But because of that, Brendan, if you're the Kings, would you move into the first round or just chill?
I think I think it's the typical logic that I would take into any year, really, that if you absolutely love a player, then sure, you consider trying to move up, but obviously you got to factor in what it's going to cost you. And, I'm giving you the PR answer here, I guess, but I think it would take you just loving a player, essentially. But yeah, I'd be pretty surprised, because I just don't think that plays into Sacramento's current timeline. Like, I'm very curious what they would make of the Western Conference right now. Like, how close do they feel to the second round?
I don't think you want to know that.
I don't know how far it might be. There's a very thin line between flirting with the Western Conference Finals and being in the play-in in the Western Conference. And don't get me wrong, I think the Kings are in the former. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying I wonder what their mindset is.
What have you done with Brendan
far
Nunes?
they are. I'm not saying myself.
How far do you think they are?
I think they're pretty far, to be fair. But if you got the right matchup, like, would I have been shocked if they were competitive against OKC this year? Or not, sorry, OKC, absolutely, yes. Houston.
Okay, yeah.
You know what I mean?
They went 3-0 against Houston this year. I know it's not playoffs.
I just think that there are matchups where I think it would be fool's gold to believe that they can get into the Western Conference Finals. Don't get me wrong. But I think that we've also seen this organization be overly confident in the group they have. And I don't think that they want to lean into younger talent, especially not younger talent that isn't like flirting with their second contract. I think that might be different. A guy that's been in the league a little bit, and then you're getting a little younger. I think spending assets when it seems like they want to get better, establish an identity right now, going and spending that on a guy that's going to have to develop through the draft is not what I would expect them to do.
And I'm going to throw it to you, Frankie, just kind of to Brendan's point, though, and this doesn't help, I guess, self-awareness, if you will, because you look at the last two seasons, and yeah, if you're a Kings team that is not being completely realistic, you got the Mavs, who went to the finals as a 5 seed, and you got the Timberwolves, who went to the Western Conference Finals as a 6 seed. That's a lot of playoff revenue, players. That's a lot of playoff revenue. So you could be convinced, yeah, if certain things break your way, you get the Rockets. And, now people are saying, well, look at the Timberwolves. It was a perfect matchup against the Lakers. Then you face the Warriors without Steph. You never know what could happen once you get into the dance. The bigger question is, can they get into the dance? And that's my issue. I don't know what fringe move happens, because we sat here and said, to your point, Frankie, you get DeMar DeRozan and De'Aaron Fox in the playoffs, two of the best closers. I like their chances. Do I trust them to get to the playoffs? That's more of the issue.
Well, and to Brendan's point, the West, there are a lot of question marks. I mean, outside of OKC, they finished 16 games ahead of Houston for a reason. They are set up to win for at least the next couple of years. And then I think the luxury tax and the aprons are going to come for them when those players have to enter free agency and get those extensions. But for at least the next couple of years, I think they're going to win 60-plus games every year. But after that, I mean, Houston has some questions they got to figure out this summer. Are they going to try to shake things up and get KD? they might look different. The Lakers, I mean, LeBron's probably in his last year, maybe 2. Yeah. Can he stay healthy? Who knows? I'm not going to go down the whole list, but, Denver's going to be a little different next year. The Kings have talent for sure, but I feel like to get that piece they're missing, the fact they're going to have to part with something, you're going to create a hole while plugging another. So if you try to trade for a point guard or say they want to go get, I don't know, LaMelo Ball, you create a hole. You're going to have to move off of probably Domas or
Keegan.
Keegan might be in the mix there. Obviously, DeRozan probably gets moved in a different deal. I don't know how you bring in a or B+ tier point guard without having to part with some real pieces here. And I'm not talking about bringing in D'Angelo Russell as a free agent or anything like that.
Or Schroeder.
That doesn't solve, in my opinion, anything.
Or Tyus.
You're a Tyus guy?
I could be.
Starting point guard?
That's what I'm saying. Tyus and PJ. Brendan said that second round right there.
Not what I said. Not what I said.
That team's finishing 12th in the West. Probably.
Pretty sure Phoenix just needed a point guard last year and got Tyus Jones, and it didn't really solve anything.
Nope. They were starting, I think, rookies ahead of him and just running Booker at the point.
Jordan Goodwin for a little bit, maybe.
Yeah, I think so.
Connor Gillespie.
But
wow.
Connor Gillespie. Wow. That's right. He had a couple of good moments. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I don't think the Kings have that one move. I think it would take a full reconstruction of the roster, and maybe you can make it work, and maybe you surprise some teams. And like, as we saw, and I don't want to look at the 22-23 season and say that injuries played a huge role in the Kings finishing third in the West, but the Kings had to stay healthy themselves and keep performing. But there were a lot of injuries that year, and you never know what's going to happen in any given year. If the Kings roll out next year with the Levine, DeRozan, Sabonis, the same roster, and bring in bring in a D'Lo, maybe they can flirt with the 7, 8 seed or 9 seed in the West, but I think that we're aiming a little higher here. We're looking, like you said, to get to the second round. And to do something like that, in my opinion, that big, you need some big changes. And I don't know if they're going to make those.
Yeah, Chris, I wanted to kind of preface it in a different way because of what we've been kind of flirting around here. This is what Boogie said this at some point last year when he said it felt like the Kings didn't know what to do once they got to the playoffs. And I think that's where we're headed again because, okay, Domantas Sabonis, the crew, they make the playoffs. Isn't that just a means to an end? They got in, but we know they're not doing anything.
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, I think that's the frustration with, if they do continue on this path is that we just kind of feel like we're not saying it cannot be successful. Right. It's just ultimately what you're playing for, again, is the championship or is to at least be in serious contention of it. And it just doesn't, it feels like, you would have to have all of the things line up your way in order to have it happen. And I think, that's just kind of you can get I'm not trying to discredit them, but you can pick which season you want, but the Indiana Pacers have had, you could say, easier runs or more fortunate runs these past couple of years based off of who they've played. They all count the same, but kind of like what Brendan said earlier, there's plenty of examples like the Atlanta Hawks and, you could use Portland. Many other, Portland, with Dame and CJ. There's many examples of teams making the Western Conference Finals, and ultimately, it's my Tyrese Hater comment of just because something happens doesn't necessarily mean it's true.
Right.
They can make the Western Conference Finals. That doesn't necessarily mean that that's a core that you should double and triple down on because it is a Western Conference Finals core. They made it once, but that might have been the one of 10 scenarios in which it plays out. And, to kind of tie it into the series that's happening now, I think that's Indiana's biggest problem is they don't really have, it's like Avengers Endgame or a political race. You need as many avenues as possible to get to the win. And it just feels like OKC has all of these different outcomes that they can have and lead to a win. And it feels like the Pacers need OKC they need to not foul OKC, and they kind of need to hit their shots. So
when we return, we run the 2 trades for Cam Johnson by the guys. See if they're into either one. Allen Stiles, Sacktown Sports.
Sacramento weather is brought to you by Fidium Fiber.
I'm Tamara Berg in the KCRA 3 Weather Center. Welcome to your Thursday. Out the door, feeling that Delta breeze. You may want to layer for the first few hours of the day. So we get into the afternoon, we're looking at sunny skies, light winds, temperatures peaking in the upper 80s. Get the latest forecast on the KCRA 3 News and the KCRA 3 app.
It's about time they
Fix that pothole.
Invented better windshield wipers.
made an internet that just works. Fidium Fiber Internet, starting at only $30 a month. It feels like Fidium. Offer available to residential customers only. Terms and conditions apply. See Fidium.com for details.
Are you thinking about buying a new car? Well, maybe you're on the fence. Let me help you out. Kyle Draper here from Mercedes-Benz of Stockton. From the first time I stepped into the MP of Stockton showroom, I knew I made the right choice. I settled on the all-electric EQS SUV. It's comfortable, stylish, and most importantly, it's safe. Mercedes-Benz has the reputation of making the finest cars in the world. Now it's your turn to experience what I already know. Mercedes-Benz of Stockton is the best car buying experience you'll ever have. It's just a short drive down I-5 or anytime at mbfstockton.com.
Get ready for a night out with Jordan Davis. It's Country in the Park 2, Saturday, September 13th at Cal Expo. Along with the special guests Mitchell Tenpenny, Locash, Vincent Mason, and Abriana. Make it a family day out with food trucks, games, dancing, and more. Saturday, September 13th at Cal Expo with Michelob Ultra. Tickets are available now at CITPFest.com.
This is the story of the one. As a safety manager at a manufacturing plant, he does everything he can to keep his coworkers safe. From finding ways to reduce risks to keeping safety supplies in stock. And for that, he relies on Grainger. Grainger offers a broad range of quality products and next-day delivery, so he can always play it safe. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Hey, it's Carmichael Dave here for American Energy, and oh my goodness, I'm born and raised here. I know it gets hot, but my goodness, we're already seeing 100-degree days. Listen to me. You do not want your system to conk out in the middle of June or July or August with one of those big 100-degree stretches. You want to make sure you're good all summer long. And my friends at American Energy Heating and Air can do that with a $24.50 tune-up right now. That's half price. And if you need a new system, $3,500 off, up to $3,500 off in rebates for qualified systems. They've been around since 1981, serving the greater Sacramento area. A+ with the Better Business Bureau. Call them right now, 916-520-9990. That's 916-520-9990. Jingle Singers, take it away.
Call 916-520-9990 now.
Allen Stiles
You can join the show by texting 916-339-1140
on Sacktown Sports.
Allen Stiles, Sacktown Sports, taking you up to 2 p.m. Yeah, we got a little bit of trade talk with the guys, fully loaded. We are back with Frankie Carticelli, back from paternity leave 2.0, Chris Watkins, and Brendan Nunez. Guys, and I know you guys have A's media passes and I don't, so and that's besides the point. But anyway, if they lose tonight, that would be the worst 22 game stretch in franchise history.
You could have my pass.
And
Don't you?
Yeah, they were gatekeeping. Now they're here, take it. Like that meme.
Now they're keeping them at the gate.
Guys, be very careful. Someone just broke into my car
and left two
A's credentials. You got to be careful out there.
You're Mr. Rivercat yourself. Just walk in the place.
Hey, sometimes I do.
Just walk in.
Sometimes I do. Okay. So yeah, I just had to say that because crazy stuff. And I'll be watching the A's game or the Giants game when they're both playing at night. Click on over to they're down. They just wake up. Sometimes when you're in a rough stretch hitting, it feels like you blink and you're always down 0-2. The A's, the game starts and they're down 5-0.
They go down early
in Sacramento
frequently.
Crazy
every
time. Yeah.
Every
by
game.
the second inning. Almost every game.
Like the overs are 10 every game, and I don't know why they haven't moved them to 11 or 12. There are so many runs scored in Sacramento. It's Coors Field of the West.
That's what. Well,
Coors Field is in the West.
Yeah,
of the more west
of the super of California.
Literally play in the NL West.
Coors,
but
California.
More west.
Coors, California.
Sacramento's more west.
It is. Kyle, and don't you get started, Mr. 80, Mr. I-80. We didn't forget.
Sure.
Wait.
You got me. Sure, I got you. Not realizing Colorado is in the West.
Kyle, when the A's were playing the Giants, I said I was calling it the Battle of I-80 or whatever. And I said you still could call it the Battle of the Bay or something. And Kyle said, you can get to San Francisco from 80, and the text line roasted him. That's all. San Diego.
And first of all, I know that Colorado's in the West, and I'm saying that we're more West is my point.
That's right.
You're not knowing that you can get to the Bay Area from 80 is, come on, man.
No, you're right. I'm just saying calling it the Coors Field of the West is crazy.
Content is king, boys.
Take this offline, all right? 12:35, that's where you can see some high-level baseball. Carlos Correa, the best Giant that never was, and the Minnesota Twins taking on the Athletics of Sacramento, formerly of Oakland, headed to Vegas, we think. As we talk some trades here, guys, here is the first trade that Kyle cooked up. Kings receive Cam Johnson. The Heat receive DeMar DeRozan. The Nets receive Andrew Wiggy Wiggins, the 2026 first rounder from Sacramento, and the 2026 second rounder from Miami. So essentially the Kings would be giving up DeMar and the 2026 Sacramento first rounder for Cam Johnson.
So
in or out?
In this scenario, you're assuming whatever 2026 pick that you have will not turn out better than Cam Johnson, I guess is pretty much. I don't know. I'm at the point now where it's like, I mean, how much better does adding Cam Johnson over DeRozan?
I don't know.
Does it lift this team up to a different, tier at
That's
all?
what I keep saying.
And Cam Johnson isn't, 24, 25. I believe he's pushing 30.
The brother is 30. No, the brother is 29.
He's 29.
Yes.
He's got 2 years, 42 remaining.
So he's almost 30 years old. Like, it's just
never played more than 66 games in his career. That's crazy.
The first round pick makes it if it was just player swap for swap, sure. But the first round pick, I think the Kings need to keep those picks for a bigger deal. If they're gonna swing big at some point and make a deal like that, like multiple firsts involved, you got to have your 2026 in there too, I think.
Well, isn't that what the Wolves pick and the Spurs pick are maybe for?
What for in the deal? Isn't a
bigger trade?
Isn't that 2020?
Spurs is 27, 31 for the Wolves pick.
Yeah, those are down the line.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I don't hate it. Essentially, right, we said it's the 2026 first and DeMar for Cam Johnson.
That's right.
I don't hate it. Like, if I feel a lot better about it if this was still the team with De'Aaron instead of Zach, which maybe means that it is just an okay value deal. And I'm just hesitating because I don't know that the Kings should be making win now moves, but I think that's probably more the direction I would expect them to go in. Cam's a tough one to get a gauge for his value because the fact that he didn't get moved this last offseason makes me think that their asking price was higher than what anyone was obviously willing to pay, since there were teams that felt like they were on the fringe of contention, and I think that could have benefited a lot from adding him. Yeah, I mean, I guess it's a fine deal. I can talk myself into it. I don't love it. Yeah, I feel fine about it, I guess, is really how I feel like I can give you. I think it helps the spacing, helps the size.
It's just kind of lateral though. If you get to bank on more what it does, it's kind of more lateral. Like you're taking away scoring. I mean, 18 points per game, and he shot 39 from three, so he definitely can shoot it, but different ways. And like he is kind of more of a player that you kind of would. I mean, are him and Keegan kind of redundant at that point?
Mm-hmm.
Like he's a better shooter than Keegan, but are they kind of redundant as far as?
It's good to have two of them, though. No,
for sure. And like that's kind of I guess an argument too is, I think that I can't remember who I was talking about it the other day, but I think trading DeRozan also kind of opens up that avenue for Keegan. Like maybe you find more of Keegan being more of a self-creator, someone who can kind of create off the dribble more. Definitely has to get better with handling the ball, but I just wonder if this is more of a lateral move. And again, a move that the Kings probably could have made last season before they moved De'Aaron, like you said. Like if the Kings had Cam Johnson to that team that they had already, like I think that might have helped a lot at the time, but now I think the Kings really should be prioritizing a guard right now until they can figure out what they're doing with DeRozan.
Which sounds crazy to say, by the way, prioritizing a guard. Chris, your thoughts on the first trade?
Yeah, I would probably I just wonder why. Kind of ultimately to the point I made before, it's just I don't really, and like you said at the start of this, like I just don't know what exactly it gets you, where it gets you. It seems to me like that's tripling down on being, a 9 through a 7 seed. Cam Johnson's a good piece. I think that's kind of the point of Brendan's, this, I would like it better with De'Aaron. But if you're going to bring him in and you're going to take out DeRozan, it starts to become a little bit of the pecking order thing. How important are you asking Cam Johnson's points to be? Frankie points out is 18 points per game. I mean, that's him, getting full volume in Brooklyn. What's it going to look like on a different sample size? And I just think ultimately Cam Johnson is a very nice piece. He should be your 4th or 5th best starter. But if you're asking him every single night to kind of put it up, I just kind of feel like he's a little bit more of a gadget player than that. And I would also wonder, like, if you throw in an extra first round pick, would you not rather, this is just a random name, but like, would you not rather pursue a Trey Murphy or something? If if you're already going to give up DeMar and a first round pick, how much further of a leap is it to say, well, we'll give up another first round pick for, instead of a 30-year-old small forward, we'll go for a 24-year-old. And I have Trey Murphy's contract, and he's going to make upwards of $30 million by the end of his contract. So
right.
it is something that's already locked in. But the bigger point is that Trey Murphy is going to be 25 through 28 for that contract. That's just something that, for a value perspective, makes more sense to me, because you're getting younger. You're potentially, where Cam Johnson, you already know the product he's going to be. There's a chance Trey Murphy turns into, somebody else from ages 25 to 28, and you end up kind of getting really good value on it, where, again, it just kind of feels like Cam Johnson, you're raising your floor, but your ceiling is I think in a way you actually might cut your ceiling off.
Well, it feels like, and I thought this while it was happening, and while Cam Johnson was having the best season of his career, the Nets, to me, tricked off this situation.
Yeah,
They
got happy with what they got for McHale.
Yes, and they said,
standard.
We're going to hold on to Cam, and then that ankle happened, and I thought, man, then you look up, and the brother didn't even play 60 games. Like, that's a problem.
That's crazy.
At 29 years old. Here's the second deal, and obviously you can say no to I say no all the time. Trade number 2, and this is more straight up. Kings receive Cam Johnson and Noah Clowney, who's about 20 years old, and he cooked the Kings, by the way. The Nets receive Devin Carter, Jonas Valanciunas, 2026 first rounder, but it's top 14 protected. Cam Johnson and Noah Clowney for Devin Carter, Jonas Valanciunas, 2026 first round pick, top 14 protected.
I probably make that deal.
That one, yeah.
Yeah, I think risk-wise, that makes sense.
The protection is what makes it. I mean, does Brooklyn accept? I mean, I don't know if they go for it. I think that's kind of, the Kings are likely keeping that pick, is I guess where I'm at. Like,
yeah,
they're probably going to be a lottery team, in my opinion. I mean, I might be wrong next year, but I don't know. I think that deal makes sense to me. You fill the backup center spot. You add a forward to the mix.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
I'm also a lot more comfortable moving other people's picks. I just feel like Kings picks are gold and should be treated as such. Like, those things historically for 19 of the past 20 years have been a lottery pick. And so I would, or I guess, yeah, I mean, you can include it even though they didn't have it this year. To me, it just feels like if you're the Kings, you should, it's a blessing. It's a curse. Yeah. It's definitely a curse, but it's also a blessing that I think you could reasonably negotiate with somebody and say, well, especially the further down, 26 obviously isn't super far down the line, but if we're talking 2030, the rights to Rain Fox, right? Like, if we're talking a 2032 first round pick, I think we have to take in the past into consideration and say, like, I don't know if I need to give you 2 of those kind of value picks.
And I think other teams do. I think other teams do
absolutely.
For sure. I think other teams look at Kings picks and say, hell yeah, I'll do that.
Yeah.
All day long. So,
especially when Minnesota and San Antonio are the alternatives. So
yeah.
It's like, I don't want those.
Brendan, we're up against it, but you're doing that deal. I know you're doing it.
Yeah, I guess. I don't feel that much differently than I did about the DeMar one, I guess. And thinking about it more, I do think Cam fits the team a lot better than really all those guys that are mentioned and does help. I think you need another Keegan, help spacing, size. It just, talk to me about it at one point when we're also including a point guard trade in here, and maybe it'll be a little bit easier for me to get excited about that because you would need both.
Last segment coming up with the guys. We talk point guards. Is there somebody on the roster that can handle the rock for the Kings? And DeMar DeRozan, as he is connected to Miami Heat. Can we get somebody else other than Andrew Wiggins? Allen Stiles, Sacramento Sports.
If you're 55 and up, T-Mobile has plans built just for you. 2 lines of unlimited for just $30 a line. That's a 45% savings compared to Verizon and AT&T. But don't just take our word for it.
It's not just the savings that are great with our T-Mobile plan. There's all this value from all these other things that T-Mobile offers.
T-Mobile has been such a savings for us.
We love it. Switch today and get 2 free 5G phones like the Motorola Edge with Turbo Power charging that gives you power for the day in just 15 minutes. And customers 55 and up can get 2 lines of talk, text, and data for only $30 a line. Go to T-Mobile.com/55 to learn more. With 24 monthly bill credits and 2 new lines with autopay for well-qualified customers plus taxless fees and $35 per line connection charge. Credits end and balance due if you pay off early or cancel. Contact us plus $5 per line without autopay. Debit or bank account required. 45% off 2 lines versus AT&T Starter and Verizon Welcome. Plan benefits vary. See details at T-Mobile.com. Motorola Edge requires 68-watt charger. Chargers sold separately. Actual performance will vary based on usage and configuration.
Patrick was way behind on his IRS taxes.
I was in way over my head. The total amount ended up being somewhere just over $30,000. $30,000.
Then the IRS came to collect.
Started getting letter after letter. A lien had been filed against me. They were going to basically hang me completely out to dry.
He had to do something.
That's when I reached out to Optima Tax Relief.
Patrick's life quickly got a lot easier.
It was very easy, pretty much hands off. They picked up the ball and ran with it.
And how'd it go?
I couldn't believe it. I had to ask 2 or 3 times. I saved an incredible amount of money.
How does Patrick feel about Optima?
Couldn't be happier. They definitely helped me. Optima Tax Relief, the best place to call. They're the best in the business.
Do what Patrick did and call Optima Tax Relief for a free consultation. Call 800-343-6460. 800-343-6460. 800-343-6460. Optima Tax Relief. Testimonial from an actual client. Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
Bonneville International Radio Station contests are open to participants at least 18 years of age and older that are residents of California and who reside in one of the 6 counties that make up the Sacramento metro area, unless otherwise specified. Employees or agents of the station, Bonneville International Corporation, other area radio stations, or any entity associated with the contest are not eligible to win, unless the station otherwise specifies in its own discretion. Persons who have won in the last 30 days from a station contest or event may not be eligible. For a copy of the general contest rules, visit khdk.com.
I'm Ken Korak with your Green and Gold Report, brought to you by Comcast Business, powering possibilities. Well, looking for something positive in the midst of a dismal stretch for the A's, center fielder Denzel Clark, finishing his second weekend in the big leagues and playing in his hometown of Toronto, went 4 for 9 with a home run in the last 3 games of the series and also made a sensational Spider-Man leaping catch over the wall in center field, robbing Alejandro Kirk of a home run. Comcast Business helps turn today's small businesses into engines of modern business. It's how restaurants become reliably up and running neighborhood favorites. It's how retailers become seamlessly restocking, cyber-securing must-visit shops. And it's how healthcare offices become data-managing caregivers that we all depend on. With reliable connectivity, enhanced cybersecurity, advanced fiber solutions, and Wi-Fi backup, Comcast Business is powering the engine of modern business.
With 25 award-winning years in Northern California, Ashton & Price is your local injury law firm. Pro attorney tip: if a firm presents as local, but they're in LA, red flag. If your first consultation is not with a lawyer, big red flag. At Ashton & Price, your first consult is with a local attorney, and if serious injury prevents travel, a lawyer will come to you. Still not enough? George Washington's my uncle. At Ashton & Price, no red flags, just red, white, and blue.
Remember, for the best advice, don't think twice. Call Ashton and Price.
Sacramento Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram has the biggest selection, the best prices, and unbeatable customer service. Check them out online, sacsuperstore.com, for the guaranteed lowest price on Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram. Open until 10 o'clock and right across from Hagen Oaks Golf Course. sacsuperstore.com.
Live and local
It's Allen Stiles
on Sacktown Sports.
We're rocking and rolling here on a Thursday, aka Friday Eve. We have one more segment with the roundtable. Then we're going to be joined of Michael Scotto of Hoops Hype, who has been cooking up the articles so far. Tyus Jones, that connection, that was Michael Scotto. The Jake Laravia sit down, the Q&A that we mentioned earlier in the show, that was Michael Scotto. And the idea of Sacramento trading at least one of DeMar DeRozan, Domantas Sabonis, or Zach LaVine, that was Michael Scotto. That's coming up in 15 minutes, so you don't want to miss that. We're going to ask him about all of that. But what we're asking the roundtable about right now, point guards and DeMar, not that DeMar is a point guard, but just to have this conversation, guys. Did you see the clip from the morning show? I think it was earlier this week about, is there somebody that could emerge as a point guard on the team? And it was a very quick answer for me. No, I don't. I know there were conversations about maybe Malik, but I just think secondary ball handler and point guard are two different things. Do you think a Tyus Jones, as much as we're joking about it, is enough to say, hey, Tyus Jones, CP3 or Tyus Jones, somebody like that is enough to get the Kings what they need from the point guard position, along with the curveball, the off-speed pitch of Malik Monk from the playmaking position? Chris, let's start with you.
Yeah, I think offensively it works. Defensively, I think is more so the problem with guys like Tyus Jones and Chris Paul. And, both of those guys are really, really small guards. Chris Paul is obviously, like 39 at this point next season. Who even knows if he'll, be able to play? You mentioned Cam Johnson and how many games he played. I don't know if Chris Paul's got 70 game season left in him. Tyus Jones, I think, is interesting, but the initial question of, is there somebody else on the roster? I just don't think so. I think you put it perfectly. Like, I think there's some guys who can handle the ball in a secondary position, but definitely not somebody you want having the ball in their hands for 70% of the game.
Yeah, I think Domas is probably under-discussed in this a little bit. Obviously, a really good playmaker that can kind of, like when I think of why they need a point guard, I think it's to help orchestrate of, hey, Zach hasn't touched the ball in a while. Let's go to this side of the floor. Same with whoever else it may be, Malik, Keegan, whoever, DeMar. And Domas functions as that a little bit, but I still think you need that perimeter creator that can generate paint touches more seamlessly and then make plays from there. The spray threes, that was a key word for so long in Sacramento. We'll see if we keep getting that wording more, or if it just slightly changes to like kickouts or something, you know? But I don't know. It's funny to think that, like, hey, well, they have Domas. They have DeMar, actually is a pretty good passer. He was pretty much the point guard of San Antonio until DeJounte Murray came along. And Malik is a pretty good passer, but I don't think any of these guys are enough. I think in combination with Domas, you do need a perimeter creator. Like I said, those paint touches that you're able to generate, I think, are so important in an offense that can still facilitate everything and just realize, hey, it's been a sec, and to the Tyus Jones conversation, like I said earlier, Phoenix desperately needed a point guard. Same situation I think the Kings are in, albeit more talent, but KD, Booker, Beal. And Tyus just honestly isn't good enough where you're going to put the ball in his hands instead of some of these other guys.
I think he might have got benched.
He did eventually.
Yeah, he was starting at first.
They tried it out, and then they moved away from it. But, kind of piggyback off what you guys are saying, none of those players are true point guards. I think Malik Monk was someone who we'd see him come off the bench and have 8, 9, even 10 assist games, and he worked really well with some groups. But when you kind of have him be your primary table setter, he kind of started to force a little too much down the stretch. He had those kind of pocket pass around the paint that tried to get it to Domas that kept getting picked off. The jump to passes got picked off a lot too. I think it kind of just made him change his game a little bit. And he's great in the pick and roll. Like, there's no doubt that Malik Monk probably is the Kings' best pick and roll guard, but there are other guards out there that can facilitate and take care of the ball, in a variety of ways. And the Kings, that's the most important thing that they need in a point guard, is someone who's going to take care of the basketball, not be reckless, because the Kings already have a couple of guys that can be a little reckless at times. Even Domas, who is super skilled, and we know what he can do on the floor and how he can rebound better than anybody in the league. He is a gifted scorer in the post. He can facilitate and play make for sure. But there were a lot of high turnover games from Domas, and because he felt again like he had to be the one that was able to play make and set the table. So adding a Chris Paul who's going to be age 40 would be interesting. I would imagine he'd go somewhere else first of all, but like you guys are pointing out, can he stay durable? I think last year he might have played in every game, which is something I didn't really realize until just now. Can that be sustainable? Can you sustain that? And the defense would suffer. And we know the Kings already have a hard time with stopping the ball. So can you find someone that can play a little bit of defense and facilitate? Those guys don't grow on trees, but I'm sure they'll try.
Chris Paul feels very, very Kings.
It does, right?
I honestly don't really hate it.
You believe?
I don't hate it. I've also liked Chris Paul for most of his career, to be honest.
You getting a
I know that
jersey?
people absolutely hate him. No, I don't think I'd be getting a jersey
I'd
for
get you one.
a guy that my last half a season on this team. But I mean, if he was a super cheap deal, I don't hate it, to be honest.
My question with the Chris Paul thing is, they're not a lot of ring chasers these days because of the CBA and you got your Jay Crowders. But if you're Chris Paul, both these point guards didn't achieve what they wanted to achieve. I think Tyus Jones wanted to play himself out of a league minimum deal, and Chris Paul wanted to show that he can help on a contender. And I think neither achieved what they wanted to. I think that Tyus Jones doesn't have a choice because he's only 29. He still wants to play in the league. But I think Chris Paul, would you rather do you want to play in Sacramento, or do you want to just say, hey, let me just hang out until somebody that could win a ring needs something and then just hop on there?
Right. Do you want playing time, or do you want to be ring chased?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Guys, guess who's a free agent this offseason?
Tell me
Just
now.
guess. Someone from our morning show would be very, very happy. I'm surprised. I know
who it is.
I'm surprised he hasn't brought him up.
Ben Simmons.
Yes.
Ben Simmons is a point.
I mean, why not?
Agent.
I'd rather bring in Ben
Yeah,
than
who needs shooting?
Well,
I mean,
find out.
No,
I'm kidding. But I'm surprised that Dave hasn't. Those wheels will start clicking as we get closer to June 30th.
What happened on the Clippers? Just quickly, I don't. He went to the Clippers and
he came off the bench.
Role player.
I don't believe he was even playing point off the bench. I think he was playing like the 3 or the 4 for them.
Yeah, I think you worded what happened perfectly. Just what happened.
What happened?
Like,
Whatever happened there.
I think we watched the postseason. I can't tell you one time where I was like, wow, Ben Simmons.
Yeah, I don't know if he played.
I think hardly.
Yeah. Every time I hear Ben Simmons, I cannot talk about Ben Simmons without bringing up the Colin Cowherd cut. Hey, LeBron. We're good here.
We're good here.
We're good here.
Ben
LeBron.
Simmons is here now.
Yeah, Ben Simmons is here now. Guys, I wanted to close with a couple things just real quick. DeMar DeRozan, the connection to the Heat that we're hearing about. I think that, again, we're all just working around the fringes here. We get that. I think that Andrew Wiggins could be a supercharged Harrison Barnes. I don't mind it. I really don't. I know it's Andrew Wiggins.
Gold-blooded.
But I watched that
Always.
brother. I watched that brother win a ring. Okay, and he was an all-star that season. If you're losing
a fan vote,
shout out K-pop.
He's a starter.
Look, Frankie, don't
that
do
was
that.
one of the most insane recent all-star things that have
Frankie,
happened.
don't do that.
It's literally a K-pop campaign.
Yeah,
Don't do that, Frankie.
Quite
That
literally.
brother balled out. Okay, and he locked up Jason Tatum. So don't start.
don't
there.
make me pull up his numbers.
Oh god.
Look,
Anyway,
well, how do you feel about Andrew Wiggins in the purple?
Not next. Next
For DeMar,
man.
give me Wiggs. And who did we say, Kyle? It was Wiggs. And
Why are we calling him Wiggs?
it was
now?
Wiggs, two-way Wiggs, and it was another guy.
Never heard that
But
before.
he's slowly evolving into a Harrison Barnes type. So we're just getting a younger version of Harrison Barnes.
What do
He
we
is,
think?
and if you need to identify and set a culture with your team, I think the way that we've seen Wiggins be good is when he's coming into an already set culture.
Okay.
And on the other teams, maybe not so much.
Wiggs and Davion.
Allen, the numbers.
I don't
We're
know
talking about Harrison Barnes. The year that Andrew Wiggins started the All-Star game, he had literally a Harrison Barnes line: 17 points per game, 4.5 boards.
Harrison
2
Barnes is not
assists.
averaging 17. Stop that.
He averaged like 20 one
Harrison
season.
Barnes in Sacramento averaged like 15.
I was
for his whole-
14. You weren't born yet, Kyle. Let's close here, guys.
Your other name you were looking for was Haywood Highsmith. It was going to be Wiggins and Haywood Highsmith.
Let's go. I don't know where we're going, but we're going. All right.
Jaime Jaquez?
Let's take the purple lenses off. They're not doing Jaime, but I'll do Jovic.
Okay.
They won't do Jovic.
They gotta do somebody. Everybody's untouchable now.
They got to do what?
A's are cooking right now after we were ripping on them.
Well, they don't want to be the worst team since before TVs were
Hey,
created.
Max Muncy, but not that.
There's a
Max
long
Muncy.
game to go.
It is a long game. Guys, Is anyone picking the Pacers? Let's just ask that way.
No.
And if okay, fine. Then how Thunder and how many?
4.
I think
or Chris.
I'll give them 5.
Which one? Oh, I was like,
that is a tick if I've ever seen
Chris, come on now.
Yo.
I mean, there's a chance it goes 5, but it's.
Is this your Hallie hate?
Probably a good portion, but I do just think that the Oklahoma City Thunder are just in every way better version of what the Pacers want to do, and I think everything the Pacers are going to want to do well, that is right in OKC's wheelhouse. Like Pacers are going to say, we want to play fast half-court defense. We're going to make you run all over the place, switch on all of us, and good luck. And they're going to say, we have all of the pieces to do that for as long as you want to do it. And so I just don't, like I said earlier, like I just don't really see many paths in which the Pacers can win 2 to 3 games. And I haven't even brought up how terrible Tyrese has been against the Thunder this year.
Hold on real quick. And we got
Chet Holmgren.
We got to get to Brendan and Frankie too. But Chris, I wanted to say you should take a victory lap on the Caruso stuff. A lot of people,
no need.
A lot of people, myself included, hey, Caruso's good, but he really did just disappear on that Bulls team. So Chris gets that victory lap. Frankie, Thunder, and how many?
I'll give him 5. And the torture chamber. Torture chamber is coming, I think, and I'm looking forward to see how that matchup takes place. Lou Dort against Tyrese Halliburton.
Brendan?
I'm out on Caruso ever since I saw him wear a headband over the hoodie. I don't know if you guys saw this at the intro presser the other day. I was like, I don't know about all this. Super hot take here. The Pacers only win if Andrew Nembhard wins Finals MVP on some Iguodala type stuff, because I'm being hyperbolic here, but I just don't think anybody can guard SGA, and Andrew Nembhard would have to have the absolute series of his life. But the OKC put up like 130 in the regular season against these teams.
Get Dellavedova back.
Exactly.
Look, man, I'll tell you this much. If Jalen Williams goes cold again, as we've seen him do, anything is possible. Anything is possible. That's all I'm going to say. He's Chris Watkins. He's Brendan Nunez. He's Frankie Cardicelli, who is back in action for at least the time being. We will talk to you again next week. At least they will. When we return, we will be back with Michael Scotto of Hoops Hype. You do not want to move. This guy's putting out the most content right now when it comes to the NBA offseason. And Kyle got him on this show coming up in 3 minutes. Allen Stiles, Sacktown Sports.
We bring the boom. That's what we do.
This is the story of the one. As a safety manager at a manufacturing plant, he does everything he can to keep his coworkers safe. From finding ways to reduce risks to keeping safety supplies in stock. And for that, he relies on Grainger. Grainger offers a broad range of quality products and next-day delivery, so he can always play it safe. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
$5,000. That's the average amount of money people in the U.S. are now spending on gas in a year. $5,000. That's crazy. If you drive, you have to download Upside, the free app that gives you cash back every time you get gas. That's right. You can earn real cash back with Upside just by buying the gas you're already buying. You can literally start earning cash back today.
I use Upside every time I fill up, and I've already made around $200-$300.
You're putting gas in your car anyway. Why not get real cash back? If you like free money, download Upside.
I'm saving the cash I earn from using Upside to help pay for a vacation later this year.
Download the free Upside app now to earn cash back every time you buy gas. Use promo code DRIVER to get an extra 25 cents per gallon on your first tank. You can cash out anytime right to your bank, PayPal, or a gift card for Amazon and other brands. Just download the free Upside app and use promo code DRIVER for a 25 cents per gallon bonus on your first tank. That's code DRIVER for a 25 cents per gallon bonus.
Get ready for a night out with Jordan Davis. It's Country in the Park 2, Saturday, September 13th at Cal Expo. Along with the special guests, Mitchell Tenpenny, Locash, Vincent Mason, and Abriana. Make it a family day out with food trucks, games, dancing, and more. Saturday, September 13th at Cal Expo with Michelob Ultra. Tickets are available now at CITPFest.com.
Summer's almost here, and so are popsicles, pool days, and a lot of smiling. Make sure your kiddo's smile is ready with a visit to Kids Care Dental and Orthodontics. Our expert team makes dental visits easy and fun with sensory-friendly hours for kids who need a calmer environment. We can also accommodate same-day treatments. And to save you time, if your child needs multiple treatments, we can often do them all at once. Appointments fill up fast, so don't wait. Beat the summer rush and schedule online at kidscaredental.com. That's kidscaredental.com, where healthy, happy smiles begin.
KHD1 Sacramento, KYMX HD3 Sacramento. From the Power Business Technology Toshiba Studios.
Sacramento's official home of the 49ers.
San Francisco.
Sacktown Sports 1140. Your home for Kings talk and so much more.
Live and local.
Allen Stiles on Sacktown Sports.
Thanks again to the roundtable, Chris Watkins, Frankie Cardicelli, and Brendan Nunez. We are joined now, as promised, by Michael Scotto, senior NBA insider for Hoops Hype. Michael, thank you so much for joining us.
Hey, what's going on? Pleasure to join you.
Well, I just got to say, Michael, and I promise I'm not kissing up here, but you've been grinding, man. We've been, out here in Sacramento. We're just looking for hope, Michael, after this season. And you've been, the sit downs with Jake Laravia we're going to get into, and everything that you've been kind of working on right now. You're working hard, man. I know people like you, insiders, it's almost, I don't know what when the quiet time is, maybe right after the trade deadline. And I guess you could argue even kind of now, because teams can't make moves until the season officially ends. So I just wanted to say you're doing your thing right now, Michael.
I appreciate it. I'll say this, like after the trade deadline, first thing I think of, because I'm maniacal in that sense, is like, okay, where the buyout guys going?
Right.
It's always what's next. But even now, I know we got a couple of weeks to the draft. Honestly, it's just like a lot of calls and texts all day. I try to, it's like, I don't know, 85 in Brooklyn right now. I try to go for a walk, multitask. I got my, earphones in. I'm not an earbuds guy. I'm against that. So it's a little insider info there. But no, for sure, I appreciate it. I mean, Jake Laravia was a pleasure to talk to. Really insightful guy, which always helps. So yeah, I mean, obviously for Sacramento, a lot going on too, with their high-powered scoring trio and DeMontis Sabonis, Zach LaVine, and DeMar DeRozan this summer.
Yeah, let's just keep it going with Jake Laravia talking to Michael Scotto of Hoops Hype. So as I'm reading the Q&A that you had, my takeaway was essentially I really like Doug Christie, and I'd love to stay in Sacramento, but at the end of the day, money talks in Sacramento because of the deal that they made and what the Grizzlies had on paper with Jake. Hey, we got to do what we got to do. I'd love to be in Sacramento, but if somebody is interested in what I can do, I'm not taking a hometown discount for Doug Christie and the Kings.
I would say when it comes to Jake, look, first of all, from all my conversations with people, Doug Christie enjoys the type of player that Jake Laravia is. And the two of them have a very good relationship. I think if it's similar money, I would give the edge to Sacramento because of that relationship. He knows what role it would be, and a consistent one at that. Which, if you look at Jake Laravia's career, the first 2 years when he was in Memphis, sure, he had to deal with injuries at times, but this is a guy that was a former first-round pick. He was waiting for his opportunity. He finally got it really at the start of the third year. He shot the ball better than he ever had, which he attributed, of course, to consistent minutes. But he does a little bit of everything as an all-around type of player. He can make plays. He rebounds. He defends. You can kind of plug him anywhere in that sense in your rotation. And so that's why there are going to be teams after him, especially with the fact that in a rare case for 23-year-olds in the league, he's going to be an unrestricted free agent because the Grizzlies declined his team option before he was traded to Sacramento. And what I really thought was surprising was Grizzlies GM Zach Kleiman was asked, if there was a move he could take back during the calendar year, what would it be? And he specifically mentioned that, which, as somebody that's covered the league, you rarely see, first of all, an exec admit anything. And number two, to be as detailed as that, I thought was interesting, and obviously for Jake as well.
What would be your guess as far as Jake, the Kings, based on his current market and what you're hearing? Do you think that Jake will be back in Sacramento, or do you think there are enough other suitors willing to outbid Sacramento?
Put me on the spot. I would say for Jake Laravia, kind of like I touched on, if the money's similar, I think he stays. I think it's advantageous for Jake to try to do something short term so he can get back into the market earlier again, because right now the Kings can only offer him a certain amount of money due to the restrictions when they obtained him, because Sacramento declines his option. They can only go a certain percentage over that given their books. Forgive me, I am not a salary cap wizard, but I'd have to look it up.
Oh, trust me, we talk about it ad nauseum. Trust me, you're good.
It might be like $6 million.
Yes, you're close.
So,
5 point something.
Okay, sure. So yeah, it's somewhere in that range. So if a team offers, let's say 7 or 8, then I think you got a decision to make, and of course on the roll. Big thing for Jake, I would say, consistency of a role. I would say that's going to be important. Obviously, he touched on wanting to be on either a young and up and coming team or a team that's looking to potentially compete for a championship. I think when you look at Sacramento, the window they fit in that conversation would be more towards the young and up and coming side, because he did touch on Keegan Murray, Keon Ellis, a lot of other guys on that team who play defense similar to him. Try to kind of balance out that scoring trio that you guys have.
Yeah, talking to Michael Scotto of Hoops reported on another need that the Kings have, point guard, and Tyus Jones. Tell us a little bit about what you're hearing as far as Tyus Jones is concerned, and maybe any other point guards floating around the market as far as the Kings are concerned.
Yeah, I mean, look, when it comes to Tyus Jones, there's a lot of teams that have some form of the non-taxpayer mid-level exception that are looking at him. Not sure if he's going to get all of that or a portion of it, but certainly teams are looking in that sense. Once they traded De'Aaron Fox, their mindset looking ahead long-term is, they need a point guard that can continue to spread the floor for them, which Tyus Jones could do, and also take care of the ball. He's one of the best assist-to-turnover ratio players in the league over the past, 5 years or so. And so that's what's intriguing there. I do think he's going to have other interests elsewhere. And yes, Sacramento was looking at other guards. I'm just not at liberty to say yet. But think of anybody. My hint to you guys would be anybody that's in that non-taxpayer mid-level exception or below. Somewhere on their radar, there's just a pecking order. There seems to be sincere interest in Tyus Jones, but he will have other suitors as well.
Talking to Michael Scotto, and thanks for the hint there, Michael. Kyle is already in the back working on all those players that kind of fit that description. You also put out a piece kind of breaking down Sacramento exploring the possibility of trading one of those high-powered scorers in DeMar DeRozan, Domantas Sabonis, or Zach LaVine. I read that, Michael, and I quote tweeted saying, hey, this is about DeMar DeRozan, right? As far as I understood it. But I want to ask you, since we have you on the horn, is there anybody else that it could be, right? I think that out here, we see how much Domantas Sabonis means to the team, and him being, an all-NBA player when he's at his best. We see Zach LaVine's contract and say, I don't know that anybody else is going to have an appetite for that. And that kind of leaves us with DeMar DeRozan, only been on the team for a year. And we know, he's 36, 37 years old, and he wants to compete at a high level. But am I jumping the gun assuming it's DeMar DeRozan? Is there a world where it's a different combination of maybe DeMar and Zach LaVine are still on the team and it's Sabonis out? Or is it something else that can happen outside of, it's going to be DeMar DeRozan?
Well, I mean, first off, as I kind of framed it, it's rival executives. So these are people that are other teams looking at Sacramento as far as like one of those big three, exploring the possibility of trading one, whether it's this offseason or before the trade deadline. Now, Domantas Sabonis has been the most consistent of the trio for sure, been without a doubt their best player. The guy's been a monster, about 19 points, 13 rebounds, 7 assists a game during his Kings tenure. The big question there that rival executives have is Domantas Sabonis, would he eventually request a trade if Sacramento continues to sputter and they remain in this kind of play-in territory team? He's in the prime of his career, so that's something rival executives are monitoring. When it comes to Zach LaVine, he had a bounce-back year. He was able to stay healthy, had the best shooting performance of his career, over 51% from the field and about 45% from three-point range. Everybody knows Zach LaVine can score the basketball. That's never been a question. The question, and you kind of touched on, well, if his contract, would people trade for it? Well, I mean, Sacramento traded for it. So I think that, yeah, it's definitely, I don't want to say inhibiting, but it's a boulder that they would have to, maybe boulder's not the right word. It's something they would have to navigate for sure. There's no question there. I think you're right on that. I think other teams had a chance to get him, though, last year, who could have used a scoring punch, and they did not. So I could see your thought process on him staying in Sac. With DeMar DeRozan being towards, respectfully, the latter stages of his career, even though he's still a very productive player, his $25 million salary-ish this year and only being guaranteed $10 million for the following season would make him, of the three, the more feasible guy to trade, as you kind of surmised a little bit. I think the question there is going to be which teams that are playoff contenders, that are aspiring to be a championship contender, maybe could view him as a missing piece and offer some financial flexibility where his contract at $25 million, I mean, that's in today's NBA, that's not bad at all for a high-level starting player. And also, looking ahead towards next season, only 10 is guaranteed. So you've got some financial flexibility if you either then need to flip that contract or if you want to cut bait and save money elsewhere, you can theoretically do that. So I think your surmising of my reporting is relatively on point.
Last one for you, talking to Michael Scotto of Hoops Hype. And Michael, you've been on this situation for a minute, so I had to get your thoughts. Today, our trade candidate of the day, we do one basically every day for the Kings, was Cam Johnson. And Cam Johnson is very, very confusing. 29 years old. He's never played more than, 66 games. Personally, Michael, I feel like the Nets waited too long. What are you hearing about Cam Johnson and the market right now? They wanted, 2 firsts for him? I don't think they're getting that now. What are you hearing about Cam Johnson and the plan for the Brooklyn Nets with him?
I could tell you last year, I mean, when you say what did they want for Cam Johnson, I knew it was more than a first-round pick. Now, whether that was going to be multiple firsts, whether that was going to be a first and a good young player such as Devin Carter, for example.
Right.
The equation was relatively around that. Obviously, Sacramento didn't want to part with Devin Carter. But I would say for Brooklyn, this is what's confounding a little bit and confusing about Cam Johnson. On one hand, you would look on paper at that team and say, well, given where they are, heading, they're in more of a rebuild stage, you can move off a guy like that, excellent three-point shooter. He fit in really well with Jordi Fernandez. I can tell you that the Nets love him as a locker room guy, as a leader, love him as a shooter, and their belief is he can fit in with any iteration of that team. Meaning, if they were able to go out and get better players this summer, he'd be a part of that core. If they needed to wait another year, they still think that he could be part of the core because he's got a manageable contract in their eyes when it looks towards the future. If you look at him on the books, this year he's owed $21 million. The following year, $23 million. Certainly not going to kill the books in any stretch of the imagination. When you ask me if they waited too long, I mean, it's hard to say because if the Nets, if things stay the way they are and they don't get Giannis, right, you're probably looking at another rebuilding season this year. Then you have to make a decision almost the year after that,
right,
where he'd be in the final year of his deal. And then at that point, you're either going to try to extend him or keep him long-term, or you're going to move him then. They still have a little bit of time. I think 2 first-round picks for him is going to be tough. If it was going to happen, I think it would have been either at the deadline or to this point. It may be a little bit less than that, but they've never felt at all a sense of urgency to trade him just to trade him. I can tell you that for sure.
Michael Scotto, this was outstanding. Thank you for taking the time. I know it's a little later out there in Brooklyn, so we really appreciate it. I made it out to Brooklyn one time, and I had this whole thing, and this is before the chopped cheese popped off, because now everybody's doing chopped cheese everywhere. I went out to Brooklyn. I told myself I'm getting the chopped cheese because I went to school in Philly, so I wanted to compare it to the cheese steak, and I didn't do it, Michael. I got to get out there, man. I got to do it.
I don't know. As a Brooklynite, I don't know if I would say we're known for the chopped cheese. I got to be honest. And I will say about Philly, you can put me on the record. Angelo's is my spot.
Okay.
That is my spot. I know it's not necessarily the quote-unquote tourist of the cheesesteaks in Philly spot, but Angelo's is where it's at. Tested and proven from a direct source. Yours truly, Mike Scotto.
There you go. I'm an Ish Kabibbles guy myself, but I've heard of Angelo's. I can get down there. Michael Scotto, insider, senior NBA insider for Hoops Hype. Be sure to follow him on social media and check out all his work on Hoops Hype. Michael, let's do it again soon. We'll talk to you.
When we do it the next time, let me know. Let me know about Angelo's and your thoughts.
All right. Thank you. That was Michael Scotto. When we return, a Hall of Fame quarterback finally makes his decision. We'll tell you who it is and where he's going. Allen Stiles, Sacktown Sports.
Attention! If you owe money to the IRS, this is an urgent message. The IRS is cracking down by sending out collection letters, garnishing paychecks, seizing bank accounts, and putting liens on homes and businesses. They call it enforced compliance. And you better watch out because penalties and interest on unpaid taxes compound daily, making it even harder to get out of debt. Don't let tax debt destroy your life. You need to call Optima Tax Relief, America's #1 tax resolution firm. They're experts in taxpayer assistance programs that can save you thousands if you qualify. A+ rated by the Better Business Bureau, Optima's resolved over $1 billion of tax debt for their clients. Let them fight on your behalf, helping to put your tax problems to rest. Call the tax professionals at Optima now for a free consultation.
Call 800-343-6460. 800-343-6460. 800-343-6460.
Optima Tax Relief.
Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
Allen Stiles. Watch the show on YouTube.com/Sacktown Sports 1140.
Or listen on the Sacktown Sports app.
Incredible. Outstanding stuff from Michael Scotto. We have to have him on the show again soon. So if you're in Brooklyn, that's not the chopped cheese spot. And, I don't think I would call it gentrification, but this thing happens with food where somebody makes it popular and then everyone is trying to replicate it. Because I saw there are places in Sacramento now where you can get a chopped cheese. And you're damn right, I'm going to go get it at some point. But you got that. I saw some place in Sacramento, I think it's called Philly's, that does cheesesteaks. So I got to see what that's all about. Michael Scotto says Brooklyn is not necessarily the chopped cheese spot. And he also had some things to say. I got to ask Draper about Angelo's. Why do I feel like Draper might have brought up Angelo's before? So great stuff from Michael Scotto. If you're just hopping in the car saying, Alan, I missed the interview with Michael Scotto, that will be up on YouTube. You can also check it out on the Sacktown Sports app. We talked about Tyus Jones. We talked about who could get moved out of he said the high-scoring trio of DeMar DeRozan, Domantas Sabonis, or Zach LaVine. And we got some more in-depth information from Michael's breakdown with Jake. And I think the biggest thing, Jake Laravia, and the biggest thing, Kyle, that I took away was the idea. He said that if it's close in money, he thinks it's going to be Sacramento. If it's $5 million a year compared to $7 million a year or $8 million a year, we're all humans. We got to do what we got to do.
$4 million is $4 million,
Yes.
especially because as of right now, Jake Laravia is not in line for some $60 million or $70 million contract. So that's a life-changing amount of $3 million that could be coming Jake Laravia's way by another team. And Michael kind of reaffirmed, I guess, what I thought, which is like about $8 million. Kings are either going to have to add some extra years onto that deal or player options or something like that, or just do what little they can to try and push it over the edge for Jake.
Yeah, and the names that Jake brought up when he spoke with the Basketball Insiders, I remember neither of us thought they were scary names. I think why I'm still convinced that Jake might end up with Sacramento is simply because, look, man, he's 23 years old. I think there is a market for him, but you look around at who could be interested. I think the one name that you said, Kyle, that scared me was the Dallas Mavericks, and how if you move on from a PJ Washington, you can get a Jake Laravia at a cheaper price. I think that Jake is going to have to make some decisions when it comes to money. You could get paid more. This is what we're talking about in Sacramento. You could get paid more to play less on some of these teams. I don't know how much time he would get with the Mavericks, but he could get paid more. He could play more on the Kings, even though the Kings are capped. So those are some decisions that Jake is going to have to make.
Well, it's also not even a guarantee that you play more. Like, you could be promised that you're going to play more, but if all of a sudden they trade DeMar DeRozan for, let's call it DeMar DeRozan for RJ Barrett, all of a sudden RJ Barrett's your starting three, and you've got Barrett, Zach LaVine, Keon Ellis, Devin Carter. Like, you can be promised one thing and then that promise not necessarily fulfilled. And to your point, because of the salary floor in the NBA where every team has to spend at least 90% of the salary cap, a team like Charlotte or a team like Brooklyn or a team like Washington or a team like the Utah Jazz can pay you more to play less by proxy of they have to fill out roster spots. And maybe Jake doesn't want to go play for those teams, but at the end of the day, like Michael said, $8-9 million is quite the difference when it comes to that life-changing level of money that Jake might not be guaranteed.
Life comes at you so fast in the NBA. It is incredible. And you go from being a first round pick to just not hoping to stay in the league, but hoping to work your way back to an eventual huge payday. And again, taking it from yesterday, relatively speaking, Jake probably had his eyes on maybe a different prize when he first got drafted. Got to pay off this tease. It's always funny when NFL Network gets something because all three of them get it together. So Tom Pelissero, Ian Rappaport, and Mike Garafolo breaking Aaron Rodgers to sign 1-year deal with the Steelers ahead of next week's minicamp. The Steelers went out and got DK Metcalf, although, funny enough, they got DK Metcalf and lost George Pickens, which we would have thought you would have wanted both of them. So I don't know what to make of this. When we return, we'll break it all down. Should anybody in the AFC be scared of the Steelers? The Steelers, again, are a much better kind of, it's different because they do make the playoffs. But why do they sometimes, they give off not kings, but they give off just not saying uncle. They're essentially, maybe they're the Miami Heat of the NFL. We're just not going to say uncle and start this thing over. And nobody is necessarily going to be afraid of us, but we're going to get into the wild card, and we're going to lose. Allen Stiles, Sacktown Sports.
Wesley Financial Group is not a law firm.
Do you find yourself stuck in a timeshare? Get the real facts about the timeshare industry and your options for cancellation. Chuck McDowell, founder of Wesley Financial Group, has put together a free information guide that reveals the secrets the timeshare industry doesn't want you to know, including the 5 ways to get rid of your timeshare. Get this timeshare cancellation guide absolutely free.
Call 800-932-5858. That's 800-932-5858. 800-932-5858.
Drivers who switch and save with Progressive could save hundreds. With that kind of money, you could go big time on a fancy water bottle with ultra titanium alloy metal. You're not sure why you need all that. I mean, it just holds water, but you're getting it anyway. Because if you're hiking near an active volcano and you accidentally drop the bottle into molten lava, your water will still be icy cold. Switch to Progressive and you could save big time. For water bottles. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates, not available in all states. Potential savings will vary.
Hagen Oaks wants to be your go-to total golf game fitter. Try the TrackMan experience, the very best technology to fit your metal woods and irons. The new cutting-edge putter fitting studio with its $30,000 worth of technology is ready for your fitting. Hagen Oaks will help you find the best putter for your game. Hagen Oaks offers more technology, more choices, and more service. Schedule your fitting at the Hagen Oaks Player Performance Studio by calling 916-808-2531, 808-2531 for more.
Switch to Comcast Business Mobile and save hundreds a year on your wireless bill. Comcast Business, powering possibilities.
Restrictions apply. Comcast Business Internet required. Compares 2 unlimited intro lines and lowest price 5G plans of top 3 carriers. Taxes and fees extra. Reduced speed after 30 gigabytes of usage. Data thresholds may vary.
The Giant Summer Sale is here. Get giant savings on our giant selection only at Folsom Lake Honda, your one-stop Honda shop.
Looking to own or lease? Save during the Giant Summer Sale and drive a brand new Accord or Civic. Visit us today at FolsomLakeHonda.com, your one-stop Honda shop.
As a family-owned and operated dealership since 2009, customer service is our #1 priority. Our customers love doing business with us, and you will too.
Folsom Lake Honda.
Go to FolsomLakeHonda.com.
Your one-stop Honda shop.
This is the story of the one. As a lineman, he does whatever it takes to keep the power on in his community. And he wants a partner like Grainger who does the same. Grainger offers the professional-grade products he needs, from voltage detectors to harnesses to hard hats, plus fast, dependable delivery, so he can rise to every challenge. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
With 25 award-winning years in Northern California, Ashton & Price is your local injury law firm. Pro attorney tip: if a firm presents as local but they're in LA, red flag. If your first consultation is not with a lawyer, big red flag. At Ashton & Price, your first consult is with a local attorney, and if serious injury prevents travel, a lawyer will come to you. Still not enough? George Washington's my uncle. At Ashton & Price, no red flags, just red, white, and blue.
Remember, for the best advice, don't think twice. Call Ashton and Price.
Hey, it's Carmichael Dave here for American Energy, and oh my goodness, I'm born and raised here. I know it gets hot, but my goodness, we're already seeing 100-degree days. Listen to me. You do not want your system to conk out in the middle of June or July or August with one of those big 100-degree stretches. You want to make sure you're good all summer long. And my friends at American Energy Heating and Air can do that with a $24.50 tune-up right now. That's half price. And if you need a new system, $3,500 off, up to $3,500 off in rebates for qualified systems. They've been around since 1981, serving the greater Sacramento area. A+ with the Better Business Bureau. Call them right now, 916-520-9990. That's 916-520-9990. Jingle Singers, take it away.
Call 916-520-9990 now.
Allen Stiles
You can join the show by texting 916-339-1140
on Sacktown Sports.
Aaron Rodgers joins the Pittsburgh Steelers. I was just double checking, Kyle, right now. Mason Rudolph, Will Howard, Skylar Thompson. Those are the other QBs.
Oh, Skylar Thompson. Remember when he started a playoff game?
That's right. And looked horrible. Jaylen Warren, the running back. And can't forget, they've had a lot of different changes.
Yeah, their offense is completely different.
Yeah, I was going to say the best to come out of Antioch, Najee Harris is gone. Najee Harris is with the Chargers now. So his time with the Steelers came to a close. And he threw some shade at the Steelers. Now, obviously, the Chargers have a brand new stadium, but he threw some. I remember when he first signed, he said, because Najee's just hilarious in general. And basically, he was just dumbfounded as to going back to yesterday, the facilities that the Chargers had compared to what he was dealing with in Pittsburgh. So shout out to Najee Harris, like I said, Antioch High's finest. As we look at the rest of what's left on the Steelers, Jalen Warren, the running back, and for the wide receiver room, DK Metcalf, Robert Woods, and Calvin Austin III, and my guy, tight end, Pat Freiermuth.
Don't they also have, is it Roman Wilson?
Yes, they do.
Yeah, that dude might be a wide receiver too this year for them. I'm not saying he's going to be a good one. I'm saying he might be their second leading receiver.
Right now, he's behind. He is behind. They have him behind DK, and then they have Robert Woods, number 2, Calvin Austin III, number 3.
Sure.
And Scotty Wilson is in there.
Wait.
Or excuse me, Scotty Miller.
I was going to say Miller. That one. I think he goes by Scott Miller now, which is like
it's Scotty on the
Scotty
depth chart.
I saw that last year on the broadcast. It was like Scott Miller. I was like, when did Scotty Miller decide he had the audacity to be Scott Miller?
So, are you moved at all by Aaron Rodgers to the Steelers? Are we going to do the thing where we underrate it? Because I'm not to read your mind, but I don't think either of us, based on what he did in New York, are feeling, because you go from the wide receiver tandem that he had to now what he has in Pittsburgh. Are we moved at all?
First of all, Manny Machado 2-run homer. Giants are losing. Wow. Second of all, I guess I had just resigned myself for months to the fact that this was going to happen, that I had almost just envisioned the Steelers with him on the team and then resigned myself to the fact they're not going to be that good. I assume he's better than Mason Rudolph. I saw some people were also, some not like aggregator people were making the point that after an Achilles injury, it does usually take like 6 to 8 months of like actual like game repetition before you actually start playing. So maybe you could argue the Achilles was inhibiting some of Rodgers' playmaking abilities last year. I'm not going to say one way or the other. I just assume it's better than Mason Rudolph. And if it's not better than Mason Rudolph, they can just, bench Aaron Rodgers, kind of like the Jets wanted to at the end of the season. I think it's going to be, I don't think the Steelers are, anytime you have to reinvent your offense, it's never a great thing. So I don't think the Steelers are all of a sudden going to get a new running back, a new quarterback, 3 new quarterbacks, and 3 new wide receivers and say, oh, now we're all fixed. I don't think that that's probably going to happen.
I just, it's funny because Aaron Rodgers, he was in the NFC and just lost to the Niners all the time. But prior to that Super Bowl win, and even after the Super Bowl win, he was always in the mix because the NFC for a long time just hasn't had a juggernaut. The AFC goes from Tom Brady straight to Mahomes. I look at the AFC the same way I look at the Western Conference in the NBA. I'm just a bit surprised, and I know there were some rumors about Aaron Rodgers and the Raiders. I'm just surprised when I look at the AFC and Aaron Rodgers. If I guess he's ring chasing, I don't really know why Aaron Rodgers is still playing football.
This is the only team that was willing to take Aaron Rodgers. The Giants weren't
sure.
The Giants weren't willing to wait until May or June to keep their quarterback room open, and they went with Russell Wilson. Remember, it was in free agency. It was the Vikings.
What about the Saints?
Well, remember, in free agency, it was the Vikings, the Giants, and the Steelers. Those were the 3 teams that were connected to Aaron Rodgers. The Vikings said no, thank you. The Giants were willing to sign him, but they weren't willing to wait, so they signed Russell Wilson. And the Steelers were like, we'll just run it back with Mason Rudolph either way. So I think this was the only situation he had if he wanted to continue playing football.
I wonder if the Saints reached out after Derek Carr said, I'm donezo.
It's tough. I think maybe in April, but once they drafted what's his nuts, Tyler Shao. Yeah. Once they drafted him, I think they were like, I guess that's going to be our quarterback for at least a year.
I need you to put some respect on Spencer Rattler's name. That's number one.
Spencer Rattler's not going to play.
I need you to put some respect on Spencer.
Don't make me look up Spencer Rattler's stats last year.
Well, look, he was still getting used to being in the big show. So I look at the AFC, and that's why this doesn't move me, right? I mean, DK Metcalf and the crew, Jalen Warren, I don't even know if he's an every down back. I don't think he is.
Did they draft a running back? You have the depth chart up. That's the only reason I asked, because I thought they had another someone there to kind of alleviate it. But
Caleb Johnson. Oh, you know who they have? They have Caleb Johnson. They have Kenneth Gainwell and Niners legend Trey Sermon.
Yeah, Caleb Johnson was a 3rd-round pick this year. So, I mean, that's going to be someone who gets the other carries, I would imagine. Someone's going to draft Caleb Johnson on their fantasy team, and it's either going to be nothing
or it's going to cook.
Or, yeah, you just got like a steal in the 16th round.
6'1", 220. That's a big running back right there.
Yeah, so someone will give him a shot, I would imagine. And then Warren last year was not an every down back, but him and Najee were a pretty 50-50 split.
Yeah, and Najee, people have some explosion questions with Najee, so I understand why they moved on. We'll see what happens with this 3rd rounder that they just picked up. Real quick, the A's, I don't want to jinx it. It's only the bottom of the 4th. And anything can happen at Sutter Health Park. But right now, the A's are up 7-1. It looks like they will not. Again, it's only the 4th. But as of right now, it looks like they will not have the worst 22 stretch since 1916.
Was it 16 or 20?
It was both. It was 1916, 1920.
Gosh.
And then they were so bad in 1943. That it is not funny.
Yeah, I'm gonna look up 1916 and see what happened now, because we concluded earlier the last time the Athletics went 1-21 over a 22 game stretch, women did not have the right to vote. So let's see.
1916, 1920, 1943. They are currently 1-20 their last 21 games, matching the worst record over a 21 game stretch. So they were in a tough spot, and they could have been the worst in a 22 game stretch, or tied somebody else, I guess. But it looks like they're going to break away from that, Kyle. It is 7-1 right now, bottom of the 4th.
Okay, so I guess our game we were playing before, the consecutive losing streak is not going to last as long as our guy on the text line guessing the
UPS Chris.
Yes, UPS Chris. Guessing the player of the day, because he hit Cam Johnson today, so he's at like 6 or 7 in a row.
And before we get to crosstalk with Whitey, I want to do this on our show, just us, because I know they're going to do it on their show as well. Let's get our official picks in for the NBA Finals. I almost want to do a little bit of prop talk there, but I really want to do. But you had. Or the round table, I don't think anybody had it going past 5 games.
Yeah, I do not have it going past 5 games.
Y'all need to put some respect on my guy's name.
My pick is Thunder in 4.5. And what I mean by that is the Pacers will win a game if Tyrese Halliburton hits a 60-foot shot that hits the rim, bounces 60 feet in the air, and drops in. That's the way the Pacers might. Like, one of those games has to be close, right? Like, I think tonight,
yes,
the Thunder are going to whoop them up tonight, I would imagine. But the Pacers are probably going to get swept. I'll say 5 just out of, because again, I don't want to doubt Tyrese anymore, but like, the Thunder are the best offense and the best defense in the NBA since January 1st. Like, people are making the point, okay, the Pacers are an offense-first team. The Thunder had a better offense than them this season. So even the thing the Pacers do well, the Thunder were better than them at.
I'll go Thunder in 6.
I like it.
I think that here's the path if you're the Pacers. Jalen Williams has to go cold. obviously, you need Andrew Nembhard to be what Whitey Gleason thinks that Andrew Nembhard can be. You need him to ball out. Obviously, Tyrese Halliburton has to be red hot. And Nesmith, somebody got a lot. What do you think they'll go, Kyle? Nesmith on Jalen Williams and Nembhard on Shea?
Nesmith on Jalen, Nembhard, Shea for sure. Yeah. I mean, maybe you could make the case Siakam on Jalen.
Yeah, you need Siakam to go full on Toronto 2019.
It depends. So you know how like Jokic was guarded by Caruso at times? Do you believe that an undersized defender for the Pacers, pick whichever one you want, can guard Chet? Or are you saying that Siakam just has to guard Chet just based on pure size?
Yeah, they got some matchup issues, man.
Well, that's the crazy thing about the Thunder is like they have Caruso, Wiggins, and Dort are all elite defenders, and there's not really three Pacers that are like playmaking threats. So one of those guys is just going to be like rotating and closing out spot-up shooters.
I'm looking here, Kyle. I'm going to go random for my prop talk. I just checked it out right now. Give me Isaiah Joe. They got Isaiah Joe at 3.5 points. Give me Isaiah Joe at more than that. I think he'll score more than that. Because even if they're up 15, whatever, even if they're not, Isaiah Joe is going to get up at least 3 threes. Right?
I'm gonna go in the same vein as you. You're also making the case Isaiah Joe is going to be playing significant minutes.
Well, you guys are talking me into it, and I can't do Shea at 33.5. Not for the first game.
Isaiah Joe only plays when they don't have to put the defensive lineup out there,
right?
Which is Wiggins, Dort, and Caruso,
right?
So you're making the case they're not gonna be worried about Indiana burying 15 threes. And they can let Isaiah Joe cook a little bit.
That's what I'm saying.
I'm going to go in a similar vein to you just off the top. Isaiah Hartenstein is at 14.5 points and rebounds.
Mm-hmm.
He gets all his points on like those little like catch and float from 8 feet.
Well, Miles Turner is not ready. Miles Turner, this is a bad inside. I would say the inside matchup is worse than the outside matchup. That's not to say the outside matchup's good. But I think the inside matchup is a problem.
If you're going to go this route, like the longer shot, I would say Hartenstein double-double. But if you only need 14.5 points and rebounds, I like the Hartenstein points and rebounds if you're just looking for a silly prop talk.
Whitey Gleason joins us on the other side. Allen Stiles, Sacktown Sports.
When you're young, life is full of choices. Don't let opioids like highly addictive and deadly fentanyl take away your life with just one wrong pill. Addiction is a disease that can affect anyone at any age. But there is a choice to get help for this disease. Find medically proven treatment options, including virtual, at choosemat.org.
Get ready for a night out with Jordan Davis. It's Country in the Park 2, Saturday, September 13th at Cal Expo. Along with the special guests Mitchell Tenpenny, Low Cash, Vincent Mason, and Abriana. Make it a family day out with food trucks, games, dancing, and more. Saturday, September 13th at Cal Expo with Michelob Ultra. Tickets are available now at CITPFest.com.
Wesley Financial Group is not a law firm.
Do you find yourself stuck in a timeshare? Get the real facts about the timeshare industry and your options for cancellation. Chuck McDowell, founder of Wesley Financial Group, has put together a free information guide that reveals the secrets the timeshare industry doesn't want you to know, including the 5 ways to get rid of your timeshare. Get this timeshare cancellation guide absolutely free.
Call 800-932-5858. That's 800-932-5858. 800-932-5858.
This is the story of the one. As a safety manager at a manufacturing plant, he does everything he can to keep his coworkers safe. From finding ways to reduce risks to keeping safety supplies in stock. And for that, he relies on Grainger, Grainger offers a broad range of quality products and next-day delivery, so he can always play it safe. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Sacramento Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram has the biggest selection, the best prices, and unbeatable customer service. Check them out online, SacSuperstore.com, for the guaranteed lowest price on Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram. Open until 10 o'clock and right across from Hagen Oaks Golf Course. SacSuperstore.com.
Live and local
It's Allen Stiles
on Sacktown Sports.
Whitey Gleason on with us to close out the show. And Whitey, I didn't want to step on your toes with your finals predictions because I know you guys will have those. I'm just saying Thunder in 6, because I at least want to see 6 games. I want to see a couple good games. Is there any part of you think your boy Andrew Nembhard and the crew can make this exciting, or are you on the same train with everybody else?
There'll be a couple good games, but they'll lose in maybe 6, probably 5.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Aaron Rodgers, that news came out.
Yeah, how about that?
I'm not moved, not necessarily because of Aaron Rodgers or even having DK Metcalf and George Pickens would have made more sense. I think that could have been a nightmare off the field, but to move George Pickens as you get DK Metcalf, I just don't really know what the Steelers are doing, but it's more about the AFC. I look at the AFC the same way I look at and it's funny they didn't win the whole thing, but I look at the AFC the same way I look at the Western Conference in the NBA. It's just a dogfight, and Kyle and I were going back and forth that it wasn't really maybe not Aaron Rodgers' decision. It's just that was the only team willing to put up with Aaron Rodgers. But are you moved at all at Aaron Rodgers on the Steelers?
No, it's funny. It looks like what happened is that a friend of his was talking to someone and said he didn't want to go to the voluntary mini camps. So the Steelers kept saying, we think he's going to sign with us. We think he's going to sign.
Yeah.
So I think he was just waiting until he absolutely had to.
Yeah.
Because if he signs and then they have a voluntary thing and he doesn't go, then that becomes, he's not really dedicated to his team. So he just waited until the last minute to sign with him. So I think he was going to sign with them all along.
Yeah. I think that's enough Aaron Rodgers for today. We'll see what happens. I'm glad my boy Najee Harris out of Antioch is in LA now with the Chargers. So we'll see what happens.
How about my guy, Daniel Johnson from Vallejo?
No. Don't do that. That's my guy.
Are you from Vallejo?
I am not from Vallejo.
Because I'm from Vallejo.
You are from Vallejo. I tried to tell you, Whitey. Didn't I try to tell you as I was walking out?
You told me something.
I told you.
Say a lot of things when you're walking out.
That is true. I say have a good show is what I normally say.
You're mumbling about the HOA and
well,
all that.
And I finished. Did you see the picture? Because we're not friends on Instagram. Or are we?
I don't know.
Well, I got here.
We are now.
Hold on.
You got that taken care of?
I was out all day yesterday. There you go. Here's it's a before and after. So this is what I was talking about. This is what we're getting letters about, man.
So there's a little dirt area. Is that outside your gate?
Outside the garage.
Outside the garage.
Yes.
And they complain about weeds in that?
Yes. Multiple times. This is, they're there. They're there, sure. So I said, you know what? Bleep you. There you go. I got the splinters to prove it, Whitey.
Good for you.
There you go. So I got it done.
Nothing like that feeling, right? When you do something in your own house.
You know, it's funny that you say that because we have people on the text line and we've been having these generation battles the last couple days. It started with Tibbs getting fired and Kyle was going back and forth. We were going back and forth saying, well, Allen, can't you hire somebody to do that? And it's pretty inexpensive. And I said, well, yeah, but I kind of want to do it.
Yep.
I kind of want to do it.
Yep.
You know what I mean? I want the splinter. I want the splinters in my hand.
Right.
You know, yesterday I'm out there. Baby Siles is out there saying, go, daddy, go. It felt great.
Yep.
It felt great.
Nothing quite like that
That's
feeling.
some 22-year-old yoke dudes pulling my weeds. I don't want that.
I'm, again, place of ignorance here, considering I am the 22-year-old who would be pulling your weeds.
I don't want you at my house.
I thought we were going to watch 8 Mile
You're still
together.
supposed to do that.
Yeah.
Alan, you remember when, or you probably don't remember, you might not have been born, when Ricky Henderson broke Lou Brock's record. He said, Lou Brock was a great base stealer, but today I'm the greatest of all time. That's what he said. So every time when I would do something at my house, what you did, fix something electrical or plumbing, I would go to my wife and my kids and I would say that to the point where they got really sick of it. But I would do it every time I fixed something or did something in our house. Lou Brock was a great base stealer, but today I am the greatest of all time. Yeah, Dad, that's great.
That's great. Yeah. That's great. Well, look, you inspired me, Whitey, and I got it done. And no more letters. No more letters, at least for the time being. We had Michael Scotto on earlier, and we talked about a ton of different things. The Tyus Jones part of it, he said that, there's a certain price point that the Kings are looking at, and he said he wasn't at liberty to say any other names, but there are other names out there.
Yeah, it did say in the report that Tyus Jones was among the names on the Kings' radar.
Yes.
So pretty much said there are other names on there, yeah.
And Kyle is going to kind of pull this together for tomorrow, just based on the criteria who those other names could be. I do like Tyus Jones offensively. Can you play Tyus Jones and Malik Monk together? That worries me. How much would you have to do it? I think maybe there's a rotation. What was the rule? We came up with a rule last season where some combination of Devin Carter, Keon Ellis, or Jake Laravia always had to be on the floor, and that combination led them to be a positive on the floor. So maybe it's another rule like that where, hey, yeah, Tyus Jones, not great defensively. Malik Monk, not great defensively. So we're just not going to put – we have the horses to not have to play them at the same time.
Yeah, they just have so many below average defenders that, like you said, you start to look at mixing and matching and you realize, we put these three guys on the floor at the same time, we're just asking for trouble.
Yeah.
It's tough.
No, it's not going to work. He also talked about the conversations of Sabonis or Zach LaVine and DeMar DeRozan. He all but said what we've all been kind of surmising out here, that it probably will be DeMar. But I'll tell you what, Whitey, and Brendan Nunez was sitting right there in your seat as well during the roundtable. And this idea of DeMar DeRozan, some people are, and I'll see it come across on the text line and the SAC chat. I don't know. I just think that you guys are kind of overvaluing DeMar DeRozan. I don't think we are. I think that a lot of teams need bucket getters, and we'll see what happens with Kevin Durant. That price tag is dropping a little bit, but either way, only one team's going to get a KD. So I think the Kings need to be, I think they can do a lot better than Andrew Wiggins. And I like Andrew Wiggins. I think the Kings are going to be able to do a little bit better than what people think with this DeMar DeRozan move.
I hope you're right, but I don't see it that way.
Is it the leverage conversation?
Yeah, his value. My guess is that, and I know Chris Biederman was on, you guys talked about this, to go from, say, Giannis, KD, and then, who's next? DeMar. To me, it's like, no, he's not.
But you're not paying for that, though. You're not paying him $50 million.
I know, but he doesn't give you anything close to what those guys give you.
But pound for pound, I think it's close. I think it's closer than what people are saying.
That's where we disagree.
I guess
you're
they're
right.
just making the point it's better than no upgrade.
Yes, 25. Why do you got $25 million in your pocket? Stop playing around.
For Kentavious Caldwell-Pope?
No, absolutely not. Whitey, what's coming up on the show today
on The Drive, guys, we'll be getting you ready for the NBA Finals. As if you need any help getting ready for that. And also today we're going to talk with Eddie Olczyk. You know who Eddie Olczyk is?
I do not.
Eddie Olczyk, NHL Stanley Cup Finals, and he's a former NHL player who is a hockey analyst and a horse racing analyst with the Belmont coming up.
Belmont's coming up.
Yeah.
You know what? I nailed.
And Shooty Babbitt today, who I'm sure is enjoying the
shout out Shooty Babbitt. He coached a good friend of mine. He was at my wedding, one of my best friends. He coached one of my best friends back in the day at Skyline High School in Oakland. So shout out to Shooty Babbitt. Man, you got a fully loaded show.
We do.
It's gonna go by quickly.
I don't mean to be rude, but beat it.
Wow, no. As soon as Kyle cues that music, and look, he's looking at it now. Last thing I wanted to discuss, Whitey, did you see the clip with Dave and Jason from the morning show? And this isn't the last thing. I have one more. I just remembered about the point guard conversation. And can we find a point guard on the roster? My quick answer was no.
Yeah, I know you're
okay.
Well, I know that you're dead set against the idea of Devin Carter being a point guard.
That's not how I would put it.
Okay. Well, I'm not trying to, poke the bear any, but I have heard you many times saying, I think we've had the discussion.
Yes.
That you don't see him as a point guard.
You think we could see something?
I think he could be. I think that's one of the things you need to find out this year.
I want to make sure we lead a crosstalk with that, so we can get this thing sponsored. It can be Whitey versus Allen. Can Devin Carter be a point guard?
Yeah,
I can't wait.
We're going to be talking a lot of point guard talk from here to whenever some of this is settled.
I like that you ended up taking on the point guard of the day segment. I think that's a fun idea.
And I love it. That's why I always listen to it. I brought in donuts today. I'm sorry, they're probably all gone now. Or did you see them downstairs?
I did not. I'm not sure why you're telling me now, but
I just wanted you to know because I've been telling everybody.
He's been getting roasted all day. One, he wrote a note to the salespeople so they knew exactly who brought the donuts. And two, he brought all glazed donuts and one old fashioned.
No, I did not. It was 6 glazed.
True, Alan?
No, 6 glazed
all
and then
the
an
same
assortment.
Donut.
I played it safe, Whitey.
Why did you do that?
Why did
I'm
I
not
do
saying
what?
There's anything wrong with that, but
Play it safe?
No, get donuts.
Look, there was a guy who used to work here. You know him well. He said, "Hey, sometimes you got to bring in some donuts."
Okay, yeah.
You know exactly what I'm talking about.
Get into somebody's good graces.
It's summertime. And it's the best donuts in Sacramento. Did you know that? Natomas Donuts, right down the street from my house. I shouldn't even be saying this because it's not a secret. It's on CBS. Best donuts in Sacramento. Next time I'll bring you something. Whitey.
Hey, what's your go-to donut, Alan?
I'm just glazed.
Okay.
I'm just glazed or that glazed cinnamon crumb.
I like just
that
like Kyle Draper then.
What's your favorite donut?
Oh, the old-fashioned maple.
Okay, yeah, Dave was stuffing his face this morning.
Yeah.
Then had the
Oh,
gall.
yeah, the only one in the box.
Well, I mean, I got no sprinkles. I mean, what are we doing? People that's why people don't do nice things, Whitey. You bring in donuts, you brought in the wrong donuts. What are we talking about?
It's not the wrong donuts. You just need an assortment.
That was an assortment. Whitey, real quick.
Yeah.
Got about 10 seconds. What did you think about all the New York drama, Brunson's daddy being around too much? What did you think of that?
Yeah, that's it. We're going to learn more about that. Your girl, Ramona Shelburne, wrote an interesting piece today about how this has been. She would have us believe this whole thing about Tibbs on his way out has been in the works for a while.
And I love when she gets into the weeds like that, and I can't wait to read that. Thank you for listening to the Allen Stiles Show. Thank you to all the callers, texters, Sack Chatters. Thank you to Michael Scotto. Go check that out. It's up on YouTube now and on the Sacktown Sports app. Thank you to the Roundtable, Frankie Carticelli, Chris Watkins, Brendan Nunez. Kyle, great job as always. Drive guys up next, Woody Gleason, Cloud Draper, Jay Johnson. Until tomorrow, see you the bat. At the beat. The A's, the game starts and they're down 5-0.
They go down early
in Sacramento
frequently.
Every
time. Yeah,
every
by
game.
the second inning.
Yeah,
every game.
Like the overs are 10 every game, and